The story opens 500 years in the past. During the Joseon era, the atmosphere is ancient, steeped in history and royal legacy. But as time moves forward, progress reshapes the world, and we are brought into the modern era. Here, we are introduced to a stunningly beautiful school, an elite institution where only the children of the wealthy study. Their parents hold powerful, high-ranking positions. Although poor students are technically allowed to enroll, they are never given the same respect or value. Today is result day for the 9th grade students. Tension fills the air as rankings are announced. We are introduced to a boy from a wealthy, noble family, Min, who has secured 2nd place. But this time, the top rank has been claimed by a girl named Hyuju, the heroine of our story. Hyuju comes from a poor background, and Min is visibly irritated. Despite all his wealth and privilege, he has been outranked by her. His pride wounded, he glares at her and says, "I won't let this go." Hyuju, unfazed, responds coolly, "How does it feel to lose to me?" Min scoffs, his arrogance evident. "I come from a rich family. No matter what you do, you can never surpass me." Hyuju smirks slightly and replies, "Then try harder next time. Come first if you can." But Min doesn't stop there. He begins mocking Hyuju's family background. The reason for this cruelty becomes clear soon enough. Yet Hyuju is not one to stay silent. She mocks him right back, pointing at his clothes and saying he should at least learn to dress properly before coming to school. Since Hyuju has ranked first, she is called to the principal's office. But instead of praise, she is met with harsh criticism. The principal questions how a poor student could possibly top the class while rich students exist. He claims it's wrong, completely unacceptable. He reminds her that the school was built by a king specifically for wealthy children, and that someone like her merely being allowed to study there is already a privilege. Then, with a mocking tone, he gestures toward a portrait of the king and says, "Who knows who your father even was? But the king was a great man." At that moment, Hyuju understands the insult. The principal is deliberately humiliating her because she is an illegitimate child, a girl with no known father. Her eyes burn with anger, and without another word, she storms out. The story then shifts to the present. We now see Hyuju as a powerful CEO in a company. She is scolding her employees harshly. Sales are down, and new customers are not coming in. Her personality is fiery, intense, and unapologetically strict. At that moment, her secretary arrives to remind her of an event. Hyuju, clearly annoyed, says, Yes, I know it's his birthday. I have to go. Stop bothering me." But then, with a sudden, calculated smile, she adds, "Now I'll show them all." And with that, she leaves with her secretary for the party. On the other side, we are introduced to Prince Leon. He holds immense responsibility, second only to the king. If the king cannot make a decision, Leon is the one who steps in. At the moment, Leon is bathing. Outside his room, servants wait patiently, but there is no response from within. Soon, Choi, his manager, arrives and urgently tells him he must leave immediately. Entering the room, Choi asks what gift Leon has prepared for the king. In response, Leon suddenly points a gun at him and says, "I'll give you a gift right now, just wait." But it's all a joke. His expression relaxed, almost amused. Choi then insists that Leon change his outfit, as what he's currently wearing is far too strange for a formal event like a birthday celebration. Meanwhile, Hyuju arrives at the party location. She steps out of a luxurious car, and the moment she does, all eyes turn toward her. She is breathtaking in a red dress, radiant, confident, and impossible to ignore. With effortless elegance, she walks inside, owning every step. Within moments, her dress goes viral on the internet. Her company quickly capitalizes on it, putting the dress up for sale. And within just 10 minutes, it is completely sold out. It was all part of her strategy. The party's theme is based on the old era, and everyone is dressed accordingly. Yet even among them, Hyuju stands out, her presence commanding attention, like a flame in the dark. At the party, 3 girls gossip about her, whispering cruel remarks. Who even knows who her father is? She was practically abandoned. No one knows anything about her background. Hyuju overhears them. Her expression hardens. In a sudden burst of anger, she smashes a glass and holds the broken pieces, silently threatening them. Terrified, the girls run away. Just then, her older brother, Taiju, appears. Instead of support, he begins belittling her. "Your company is failing. You're useless. Look at me. I'm successful. I'm far ahead of you in life." Hyuju snaps back coldly. "You should learn to control your mouth." Before the argument escalates further, Everyone is called inside for dinner. They all take their seats. Hyuju sits at the back, unable to see the main stage clearly. At the main table, we see a child named Yoon, seated beside his mother, the queen, Iron. In truth, this child is the king. Everyone seems to be waiting for someone. They are waiting for Leon. When he finally enters, the queen immediately scolds him for being late and criticizes his outfit. Leon calmly responds, "The king gave this to me, so I wore it. I thought he liked it." The king cheerfully agrees, saying it looks great. Soon the birthday rituals begin. In their tradition, wishes are made on birthdays. The king wishes for the happiness of the queen, Leon, and all his people. Everyone writes down their wishes, including Leon. At that moment, the prime minister arrives. We'll refer to him as Mr. Lee. Hyuju approaches him and says, "I was looking for you. Where were you sitting?" Mr. Lee replies casually, "I was at the front. But tell me, how does it feel to surpass your brother? And why are you wearing a red dress?" Hyuju smirks and says boldly, "Why? Don't I look sexy?" Mr. Lee, slightly flustered, replies, No, it's not that. You look good, but wearing red in the palace is not allowed." Hyuju shrugs. "I didn't know, and I wore it for myself." Just then, Choi arrives to call the Mr. Lee. Leon is asking for him. The two meet. Leon remarks, "What's going on? All the girls were looking at you today." Mr. Lee laughs it off. "No, they were looking at you." Leon sighs and says, "I think I should just get married. After that, I'll step down, and you can take my position. You handle everything. After all, the king is only 8 years old." Mr. Lee refuses immediately. Leon responds, "Then do me a favor. Don't let me get married." And with that, he walks away. The truth is, Leon has no desire to marry at all. Meanwhile, Hyuju wanders off, searching for a phone signal, and unknowingly enters a restricted private area. Leon notices her and approaches sharply. "Who are you? Tell me your name. What do you do here?" Hyuju explains herself. Leon's expression turns stern. "Why did you come here? This is not a public place. Entry is forbidden. It's reserved for the royal family. I'll count to 3. Leave, or I'll have you arrested. I'm giving you a chance because you're my junior." Hyuju is confused by his words. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoes through the palace. Fire breaks out. Panic spreads instantly. The king is trapped inside. The moment Leon sees the flames, his expression freezes. His body stiffens, his eyes filled with terror. He is thrown into trauma because 3 years ago, his father had been burned alive in the same way, killed in a fire set by someone. In the chaos, the queen rushes forward and, without hesitation, slaps Leon across the face. Her voice trembles with fury and fear as she shouts, "Do you want my son to die too, just like your father did?" But the truth is, the king is standing safely behind them, completely unharmed, and right there, Hyuju witnesses everything. Meanwhile, the Mr. Lee steps outside, deep in thought. His mind races with one question: who set the fire? 3 years ago, a similar incident had taken place, and the king had died in that very fire. Now, history seems to be repeating itself. He orders an immediate investigation. Hyuju soon meets her secretary again and informs her about the fire. But the secretary, instead of reacting to the danger, anxiously asks, "What about Leon? Is he okay?" Hyuju rolls her eyes, irritated. "What will you do knowing that? Are you his fan or something? Why do you care? Let's just go home peacefully." As they leave, we are taken into Hyuju's past. She narrates a memory. Once, she had entered a restricted area of the school to practice archery. It was private property, meant only for select students. While she was there, Leon had appeared. He had questioned her. "Who are you? Tell me your name. What are you doing here?" Hyuju had replied honestly, "I study here. I'm in 9th grade. Leon responded coldly, "Students below 10th grade are not allowed here." Then Hyuju challenged him, "What are you doing here?" Leon calmly showed his approval. "I have permission." Curious, Hyuju asked, "How did you even get that?" She then added, "I have a match tomorrow. I just came here to practice. Look, I even have a key. I stole it from my classmate Min." Yes, Min, the same boy who had ranked 2nd at the beginning, her classmate. She had no idea how he got the key, but she didn't care. "I just want to win," she had said firmly, and then walked away. Back in the present, the queen is apologizing to Leon for slapping him earlier. Leon responds calmly, "It's fine. The king is safe. That's what matters. But I didn't like that you slapped me." The queen, still shaken, says, "There was a fire. The king could have died, but nothing happened to you." Leon's expression hardens slightly. "What do you expect me to do? How is that my fault?" The queen takes a breath and then gives him an order. "Find out who did this, and if you truly respect the king, then you will marry whoever I choose for you." Leon falls silent, and once again, the story slips into the past. When Leon was a child, his father was the king. As mentioned before, Leon had always performed well in his studies, earning excellent marks, but his father, the king, never cared. Not about what Leon did, not about his achievements. It was as if nothing he did ever mattered. Back in the present, we see Hugh speaking with the chairman of her company, her father. He is pressuring her to get married. The man he suggests earns less than her. Hugh immediately flares up. Marry someone who earns less than me? Never. At the very least, he should be equal to me. Just then, Taiju arrives with his wife. The two of them have already selected a potential groom for Hugh, but Hugh, sharp-tongued as ever, snaps, "Before marrying my brother, did you even check anything? And yet you ended up with this pathetic loser?" Taiju's wife is visibly offended. Taiju himself gets furious. "You're my sister, and you're insulting my wife?" But Hugh stands firm. "No matter what you say, I am not getting married." At this point, everything becomes confusing. Until now, Hugh has been referred to as illegitimate, abandoned, someone with no father. Yet here, we clearly see her father and brother. The truth behind this contradiction is still unclear, something that will be revealed later. On the other side, Leon finally agrees to marriage, under the queen's pressure. Meanwhile, Hugh is once again in a meeting, venting her frustration on her employees. She scolds them harshly, releasing all her personal anger onto them. Her secretary tries to stop her. "It's wrong to take out your personal issues on employees." But Hugh is consumed by pride, her ego towering, unyielding. Elsewhere, Leon bumps into an official while leaving. "I'm going home to rest," he says. The official warns him, "If you leave, who will protect the king?" The same official later confronts the queen, scolding her for her behavior. "You cannot treat Leon like that. He has the full support of the public." Back at her office, Hugh is reviewing a list of potential grooms sent by her father. All of them are businessmen, and none impress her. Frustrated, she calls her secretary. At least one of them should be a politician. If he's a politician, it'll be beneficial after marriage. Meanwhile, Leon has returned home, relaxing and enjoying his time alone. Choi, his manager, informs him, "Because of your outfit, there's a buzz among the public. In a positive way, your dress has become popular. Everyone wants it. It's even on the news." At the same time, in Hugh's company, everyone is watching the same news. The dress is trending. Hugh watches closely, and then says, almost to herself, "He's actually quite good. I should marry him." Her secretary is shocked. "What are you even saying? Do you realize who he is?" Hugh smirks confidently. "Just look at me once. I'm beautiful." She is completely convinced that Leon will fall for her at first sight. But her secretary counters, "He doesn't even know you. Why would he marry you?" Hugh doesn't hesitate. "Send him a meeting request." And just like that, the request reaches Choi, who informs Leon. Leon frowns. "Who is she?" Choi replies, "She's the daughter of the Castle Group, illegitimate but capable. She earns well." Leon dismisses it instantly. "I'm not meeting her. Reject it." When Hugh sees the rejection, she is stunned. "He rejected me? Me?" She sends another request. Rejected. Again. Rejected. This continues for days. Request after request. Rejection after rejection. Finally, swallowing her pride, she sends one last message. "I am your junior student. Please meet me." This time, Leon pauses. A junior? That catches his attention, and he agrees. The news quickly reaches the queen that Leon is going to meet a woman. Suspicious, she orders someone to keep an eye on him, to secretly observe. Finally, the two meet, and the moment they sit down, Hugh, without hesitation, places a marriage proposal in front of him. But just as the tension builds, the story once again shifts to the past. The time when Hugh participated in an archery competition at school. All the students had taken part, and the atmosphere was filled with excitement and tension. The principal and even the king himself were present to watch the event. The king, observing the setup, asks, "Who allowed archery training for all the students?" The principal replies carefully, "It was arranged by Leon." At that moment, the king turns his gaze toward Leon, staring at him intently. Soon, the students are divided into two teams. Leon and Min are placed on the same team, while Hugh and the Mr. Lee are on the opposing side. They are close friends. As preparations begin, Leon notices something strange. He looks at Min's key and realizes that Min has access to the restricted area. A thought crosses his mind. "The key Hugh showed me. She said she stole it, but where did she really get it from?" Meanwhile, Min keeps glaring at Hugh, muttering insults under his breath. His friend asks, "What's wrong? Why do you hate her so much?" Min replies coldly, "Because she's illegitimate." Before he can continue, Leon intervenes sharply. "Shut your mouth, or it won't end well for you." Min immediately falls silent. The competition begins. Hyuju takes her shot, focused, determined. Then Leon follows. Each of them gets 2 rounds. The tension builds with every arrow released, but just as the results are about to be revealed, the scene cuts back to the present. We return to the moment where Hyuju had boldly proposed marriage to Leon. Leon calmly offers her tea, completely unfazed. Hyuju, slightly surprised, asks, "What happened? You're not shocked?" Leon shrugs casually. "This is normal for me." He gestures toward a pile of gifts and letters nearby. "I receive marriage proposals almost every day, so for me, this is nothing new." Then he leans forward slightly. "Tell me, why should I marry you? What's so special about you?" Hyuju answers without hesitation. "I'm rich. I'm very beautiful. I also have a crazy brother whose business is about to collapse, and I'll surpass him soon. Let's just get married. It'll be an arranged marriage, and later, we'll get divorced." Leon shakes his head lightly. "No, tell me something more special." For the first time, Hyuju runs out of words. Despite all her confidence, nothing she says seems to impress him. Outside, the queen's spy, Aram, tries to eavesdrop on their conversation, but suddenly, Choi appears. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Aram quickly replies, "I brought food." Choi takes the food from her, goes inside himself, places it down, and then returns, effectively shutting her out. Elsewhere, the queen has invited a girl from a wealthy royal family. It seems she might be planning to use her as a pawn to arrange Leon's marriage through her. Back at Hyuju's home, her secretary eagerly asks, "So, what happened? You met him, right?" Hyuju avoids answering at first. Then finally she says, "He rejected me. He made a demand, something I can't fulfill. He asked me for love, and I can never love him." The secretary sighs dreamily. "Wow, that's actually so romantic." But Hyuju scoffs. "He was just making fun of me." Meanwhile, Choi questions Leon. "If you wanted to reject her, you could have said it directly. Why ask for love?" Leon doesn't answer. He simply smiles faintly. Back with Hyuju, the secretary asks, "So what now? Will you try to love him?" Hyuju nods firmly. "Yes, I'll try. I'll get closer to him." The secretary shakes her head. "You should have been honest, saying you'll divorce later. No one agrees to marriage like that." But Hyuju is already thinking ahead, forming a new plan. On the other side, the queen has reviewed many potential brides for Leon. A maid asks, "Is there something wrong with the girl you met?" The queen replies coldly, "I don't want to arrange his marriage. I'm not going to act as a middleman. He'll marry on his own, and I'll simply enjoy watching it." Then her eyes fall on Hyuju's photograph. A faint smile appears. "I want to meet her." Meanwhile, Hyuju is unusually kind to one of her employees, speaking sweetly, something completely out of character. The employee, confused, quickly leaves the room and whispers to others. She's definitely planning to get married. Now she won't spare anyone. She assigns him a task: gather every possible detail about Leon's daily routine, where he goes, what he does, everything. Soon, all the information is compiled into a pen drive and handed to her secretary. Not long after, Leon is out horseback riding, and just like that, Hyuju appears. "It's been so long since we last met," she says playfully. Leon looks at her, puzzled. "We just met yesterday." Hyuju smiles dramatically. "Oh, it feels like ages. I missed you." She begins trying to charm him, almost seduce him, and then casually walks away. Later, when Leon goes to a hotel to eat, Hyuju shows up again. "Why are you eating at a hotel?" she asks. "You should eat at home." Leon replies, "I'm on vacation. That's why." As he gets up to leave, Hyuju suddenly says, "Where are you going now?" Leon freezes slightly. How does she know? He turns to her. "Have you been researching me?" Hyuju answers boldly, "Yes. Since we're going to fall in love and get married, I'm just trying to love you." From that moment on, she follows him everywhere. On the streets, at the movie theater, even while he's running, she becomes an unavoidable presence in his life. Leon grows increasingly frustrated. "How does she keep finding me? I need to change my clothes." Meanwhile, Hyuju's brother and sister-in-law force her into a blind date. If she refuses, their father has threatened to shut down her company. Reluctantly, she agrees. She meets a man named June. June smiles politely. "Your father praised you a lot. He said you're very brave." Hyuju nods casually. "Yes, I also have a brother who's useless. I need a partner who can help me. His business is failing, and I plan to take over and surpass him. Will you help me? Only then will I marry." At that exact moment, Choi walks in. They're meeting in a hotel after all. Hyuju greets him casually, "Hi," and then immediately says, "Bye," in a way that makes it seem like something more. June misinterprets interprets the situation. He assumes Choi is her boyfriend. Without another word, he refuses the proposal and leaves. Choi then enters Leon's room and informs him Hyuju is outside with a man. It looks like they're on a date. For the first time, Leon's expression darkens completely. Choi then hands over the information about Hyuju that Leon had requested. She's hot-tempered, has no friends, spends all her time with her secretary, working, eating, living her routine. Elsewhere, the queen sits alone, lost in memories. We finally uncover the truth of the past. Her husband, the king, had once decided to abdicate the throne. The queen tried to stop him, but he signed the document anyway. In desperation, she burned the papers. That fire spread, and the king died in it. The truth becomes clear. The queen herself was responsible for the king's death. The king at that time was actually Leon's elder brother, which means the queen is not Leon's mother. She is his sister-in-law, and the current young king, the child, is their son. Leon is his uncle. Back then, the child was only 5 years old, yet he was made king. Even now, Leon is haunted by those memories, his brother's death, burned alive in flames. In the present, the young king is getting ready for an event, where he is to distribute awards. And as preparations begin, Leon is nowhere to be seen. After all, he is still on vacation, with 4 days of leave remaining. The queen turns to her young son, the king, and says firmly, "Listen, my son, you can handle everything even without Leon. Show everyone that you are no less than anyone." Meanwhile, Choi informs Leon about the upcoming event. At the same time, Hyuju is also preparing to attend. She spends an unusually long time selecting her outfit, trying on different looks, but in the end, she chooses a simple, modest dress and arrives at the event. She has been nominated as well, recognized for her contributions and performance for the country. Soon, Leon arrives to stand beside the king, to protect him. As the two enter the event hall together, flashes from cameras begin to burst all around them. The young king, overwhelmed by the lights and attention, becomes visibly nervous. One by one, awards are distributed. Hyuju steps forward to receive hers. Standing before Leon, she leans slightly closer and says softly, "You should give me a gift too. Not this one. I want a different kind of gift. I miss you." Even here, she tries to seduce him. Subtle, persistent, unwavering. After the event, Hyuju fully indulges herself. She takes countless photos, dances, records playful reels, those carefree, girly moments, and uploads everything to Instagram. She even tags Leon in her posts. Meanwhile, the king prepares to leave and turns to Leon. "Uncle, come with me." But Leon shakes his head. "I still have 4 days of vacation left. I'll return to the palace after that." Elsewhere, the Mr. Lee comes across Hyuju's photos online. Mesmerized by her beauty, he immediately goes to meet her at a restaurant. After all, they were school friends. We saw that earlier. They begin reminiscing about their school days. And here, a new layer of the past unfolds. Hyuju was the one who taught him how to shoot arrows. From that very time, the Mr. Lee had fallen deeply in love with her. On the other side, Choi is at a pharmacy, buying medicine. Leon's condition has worsened significantly. He cannot go to the royal hospital because the queen's relatives work there, and they would immediately inform her. Leon grows increasingly ill. Coincidentally, Hyuju is staying at the same hotel as Leon. She's jumping with excitement, scrolling through her viral Instagram post, basking in its success, completely immersed in her own world. Choi arrives and informs her of Leon's condition. Soon, we see a doctor brought in to treat Leon. He lies unconscious on the bed, clearly unwell. Hyuju arranges for the doctor to register her own name as the patient, ensuring that no one outside finds out that Leon is sick. Meanwhile, the queen looks through photos from the event. Her anger shifts toward the king. "I told you not to take Leon with you, but you didn't listen." The truth is, the king had been terrified, which is why he called Leon. He's still just a child. But the queen, cold and ruthless, mutters bitterly, "Just like my husband, my child is weak too." She immediately orders her people to find Leon. Back at the hotel, Leon rests, while Hyuju and Choi casually enjoy themselves, eating, drinking, almost as if nothing is wrong. Hyuju asks, "Why is Leon so sick? Why doesn't he go to the royal hospital?" Choi replies, "If he goes there, he'll attract too much attention, and he doesn't want that." Suddenly, Choi receives a message. The queen has arrived. She has found the address. Panic strikes instantly. Choi quickly hides Hyuju inside the room, just as the queen arrives with her entourage. Without hesitation, she storms into Leon's room, but Leon is not in bed. He is standing, half-dressed. The sight catches the queen off guard. Her cheeks flush red as she turns away. Flustered, Leon says calmly, "Please wait outside. You shouldn't come in like this." She steps out, but then notices something. Hyuju's bag. Her suspicion Suspicion ignites instantly. She rushes back inside and sees Ju with Leon. In that moment, the queen assumes the worst. "That's impressive, truly impressive," she says coldly. "You both will be punished for this insolence. Come to the palace tomorrow. We'll settle this there." The next morning, Ju wakes up in her room as her secretary rushes in with shocking news. The scandal has exploded. News outlets are reporting that Leon and Ju were caught in a hotel room in an intimate situation. Ju reads it, and instead of panic, she bursts into laughter. So it's finally happening. Now the marriage is guaranteed. But the news doesn't stop there. It also claims that Ju is pregnant because a doctor had been seen entering the room. She laughs even harder, clapping her hands in amusement. The world's opinion means nothing to her. Her secretary, however, is worried. Leon is an ideal figure. He has countless admirers. Millions of girls love him. Ju shrugs. "So what? I don't." She keeps laughing at the pregnancy rumor, completely unfazed. The Mr. Lee also receives the news and immediately heads to the palace. A decision is to be made today regarding the scandal. Everyone believes something truly happened between them. Leon, too, is expected at the palace, but instead, he tells Choi, "Take me home. I'm going back." Choi hesitates. "Everyone is waiting for you at the palace," but Leon returns to his residence and calls Ju there as well. The servants, buzzing with excitement, whisper among themselves about the rumored affair. Inside, however, Leon does something unexpected. He apologizes to Ju. "Your reputation has been damaged. People are calling you pregnant." Then he adds, "In return, I'll fulfill your wish, whatever you want." Ju looks at him, steady and unwavering. "You already know my only wish." She places flowers in front of him. These flowers are from the past, from the day she defeated him in archery. And once again, the story returns to that moment. At the competition, Ju had won. Leon had lost. Now, in the present, she asks him directly, "You lost on purpose, didn't you? Tell me the truth." Back then, her brother had been expelled from school. There had been no place for him. Everyone was waiting for Ju to make a mistake so they could remove her and give her brother a spot instead. After all, he was the legitimate child, and she was not. Leon looks at her quietly. Then finally, he says, "Fine, I'll marry you." But his voice turns serious. At night, they went to the royal palace. That time, the royal palace was overflowing with energy. Reporters filled every corner, questions pouring down relentlessly about the prince's relationship with Ju. Were the rumors true or not? While Leon chose to end it all with one bold move. He stepped out of the car, opened the door, and helped Ju out in front of the cameras until Ju became the #1 trending topic, the ordinary girl who captured the prince's heart. Inside the palace, the air was suffocating. The queen, furious at Ian for breaking every rule, ordered the maid to summon him immediately. Ian had no choice but to leave Ju alone in the royal suite and go to her. The queen exploded, demanding he apologize for the scandal and questioning why he brought Ju into the palace. Ian replied with confidence. He brought her to prove he was serious. Then he said it plainly, "I've decided to marry her." And just to provoke her, he joked about acknowledging a child under his name, leaving her stunned before walking away. When Ian returned to the royal suite, he found Ju sitting with Crown Prince Yoon, feeding him. Instantly, jealousy took over. His anger flared even more when Yoon mentioned he couldn't sleep, and Ju insisted he eat. Ian immediately ordered the maid to take Yoon back to his room, clearly alarmed. If anything happened to the Crown Prince, it would be a disaster, and the queen would never let it go. Ju was shocked by his reaction. She asked calmly, "If something really happened, would you stand with me or with the queen?" Ian paused, then chose her. He told her they needed to act perfectly, to make people believe they were deeply in love, madly devoted to each other. Later, Leon told the maid to bring clothes for Ju, since she would sleep in his room. Ju casually asked for cotton because her skin was sensitive, shocking the maid, who suggested she sleep elsewhere. But Ian insisted they would share the same room to complete the act. As soon as the door closed, they argued over the blanket, their voices loud enough for the servants to completely misunderstand the situation. The next morning, Ian woke up late for the first time. Ju had already left for work, moving with confidence, still wearing yesterday's clothes, a deliberate move to show she had spent the night at the palace. At the palace, Noble Rang sat with Crown Prince Yoon, noticing his unease after dreaming of the late king. Rung remembered the king as weak and fearful, marrying the queen only to please his father. He reassured Yoon he would always stand by him. Back at her office, Hyuju read comments calmly, handling both praise and criticism with ease. When Mr. Lee asked if she was really going to marry Ian, or if it was just drama, she confirmed it. She said yes, she admired him and wanted to stay by his side, especially since they were planning to marry him to someone else. Then she asked him to bless the marriage and speed up the process. Meanwhile, Ian learned the queen had collapsed after hearing his decision, clearly pretending to be ill to block any official announcement, since palace protocol forbids celebrations while a senior family member is sick. That night, Hyuju returned home and called Eon about a post that was deleted instantly. Before she could finish, 4 schoolgirls appeared and threw eggs at her for liking the prince. At the same time, Choi arrived at Ian's office with piles of paperwork, saying he couldn't leave until everything was finished. Hyuju stayed calm, asking the girls why they were so angry. They said they were royal scholarship students. She told them to go back to school and focus on their studies instead of this nonsense, warning them not to repeat it. In a church, Mr. Lee appeared. When asked why he had been absent, he admitted his friend was about to get married, and he didn't want it to happen. It became clear he had loved Hyuju since school, but she had always focused on the prince. When Hyuju returned to her apartment, she found her father waiting. He scolded her harshly for the scandals, accusing her of seeking attention. He reminded her of Taiju's mother-death anniversary. Flashback. Young Hyuju revealed she was his daughter in front of his wife, who died instantly from shock. Since then, her father saw her as a curse. Now he demanded she give up her company, or he would disown her. Hyuju stood firm. She told him he never loved her, only Taiju, because she was the mistress's daughter. She refused to give up her rights or her company and walked away. Soon after, Ian called and asked, "Are you okay?" That simple question broke her. No one had ever asked before. She said she needed time alone and would talk tomorrow, then hung up. She realized she wasn't greedy, just a child seeking her father's love. A knock interrupted her. She grabbed a baseball bat, thinking someone might attack, but when she opened the door, Ian stood there. He walked in quietly and sat with her, bringing sandwiches after noticing her voice earlier. At the palace, Choi panicked because Ian had left his work and the queen must not find out. Hyuju opened up to Ian about everything, the online attacks, her father's threats, and the girls who threw eggs at her. Because of this, Ian decided to take her back to the palace with her bag. The servants were shocked when they learned she would be living in his royal suite. The head servant approached her calmly, asking her to relax, promising to show her the entire suite the next day. Before sleeping, Hyuju called Ian. Surprised he was still awake, he told her he had work to finish. She immediately joined him. In his office, Hyuju sat beside Prince Izan and admitted she had been comfortable in her apartment. The palace was far, and the daily commute would be exhausting. Then she asked why he agreed to marry her. Ian laughed. "Because you're rich, the richest woman in the country. That matters now. You'll be the royal family's shield in front of the public. People are attacking them over tax spending, and your wealth will silence them." He continued. "Second, you're beautiful. Everyone sees us as a perfect couple." Then his tone shifted. "Third, if I said I wanted the throne, people would condemn me. But you'd understand. Our partnership matters more than anything they say." The next morning, guards stormed into the royal suite and formally accused Hyuju of being involved in the palace fire, even claiming she had a history of hostility toward the royal family. Hyuju stayed calm and tried calling Ian, but he didn't answer. He was in a ceremony without his phone. She quickly contacted secretary, asking her to reach him. When access was blocked, a bold idea came to mind. Using a royal badge in Eon's name, they managed to enter the shrine and find him. By chance, they ran into Choi, who helped them. Meanwhile, Hyuju was taken for investigation. Before things escalated, Eon arrived, stood before everyone, and defended her in front of the queen. There was no evidence. At that moment, Hyuju pretended to faint before things worsened. Eon carried her back to the royal suite in front of everyone. Once inside, she stood up, pleased with her act. She told him she wasn't afraid of prison. She faced lawsuits every year. She was already thinking about which lawyer to hire, confident she would escape again, especially after the queen's threats were overheard by the servants. Within moments, rumors spread across the palace. Their love story became the center of attention. That night, Hyuju met Ian outside the palace after making him sneak out. She gave him tea and vitamins to help him sleep. As he leaned closer, he whispered that someone was watching them and taking photos. The next day, everything exploded. The palace buzzed with talk of their relationship. No one believed it was just a rumor anymore. A meeting was called. Rang told the prince he couldn't be with Hyuju. She was a commoner, and worse, an illegitimate daughter. Palace protocol would never allow it. But the Prime Minister, Mr. Lee, approached it politically. He advised Eon to publicly confirm the relationship. If he abandoned her now, it would become a massive royal scandal. Instead, he suggested announcing they were only at the beginning of their relationship, getting to know each other, delaying marriage to calm public outrage. Rang agreed, but insisted Hyuju leave the royal suite and return home. This time, Ian refused. If she goes back, her life will be in danger. I won't be responsible if something happens. He insisted she stay in the royal suite. It was safer, with guards and servants everywhere. Mr. Lee seized the moment, adding that if Hyuju stayed in the royal suite, Eon must also remain in the palace to avoid further rumors, clearly trying to keep them apart. When the queen learned what happened, she lost control. She lashed out at Rang, furious he allowed this, saying his decision gave Hyuju legitimacy. Her presence alone in the royal suite elevated her status. Rang snapped back. If you knew this, you should have controlled yourself instead of accusing her of the fire. You turned her into a victim and made the prince more attached to her. He continued, because of you, public opinion has shifted. All criticism is now directed at you. You have no choice but to accept this. The news spread everywhere. Headlines called Hyuju the Cinderella of the 21st century, a common girl who captured the prince's heart. Analysts argued the marriage was impossible. Palace standards were too strict, and the royal family would fight her until she left. Seeing the pressure on Hyuju, Eon went to her in the royal suite, trying to lighten the mood, but she wasn't bothered by the rumors. Instead, she suggested something bold, speed up the marriage, and force everyone to accept it. Then she proposed they go out together. We see Calm carefully preparing Hyuju, fixing her hair and every detail. She had to look perfect beside the prince. She stepped out in an elegant dress, confident and radiant, but Ian laughed. He wasn't used to seeing her so formal. Hurt, Hyuju threw her bag to the ground and walked away. Minutes later, she returned in a completely different look. Casual clothes, a cap, like she was heading to a club, and this time, Ian was captivated. He loved it. He agreed to go out with her just like that. At the club, Hyuju was excited, rushing to get matching team outfits for them, but Cho stopped her, refusing, saying the prince couldn't wear uniforms or express political views, and that the royal family had no privacy. Ignoring him, she ran to the stands, full of energy. There, Hyuju ran into her brother Taiju and his wife. They greeted the prince, but Hyuju's discomfort was obvious. She could barely look at them. Suddenly, her face lit up, her smile widened as she saw Mr. Lee entering the field to throw the first pitch. Everyone talked about his love for baseball, how he once dreamed of becoming a player. Mr. Lee joined them in the stands. When the camera focused on them, the crowd erupted, the atmosphere growing even more intense. After the game, Mr. Lee made his move. He invited Hyuju to dinner, trying to pull her away from Eon. Hyuju wanted to go out with Mr. Lee, but the prince refused. He told her it made no sense for them to arrive together and leave separately. Then, in a bold move, he opened the car door for her in front of the reporters, making sure everyone captured the moment. At the restaurant, Hyuju ordered sushi, but noticed the prince wasn't eating. Mr. Lee explained that a royal family member wasn't allowed to eat raw food. It was against the rules. Hyuju felt frustrated. He couldn't eat street food, couldn't eat freely at restaurants. His life was full of restrictions. Mr. Lee seized the moment. He told her she shouldn't marry him. His life was nothing but rules, and she would never feel free with him. But Hyuju ignored that and asked what else he wasn't allowed to do. Mr. Lee paused, then drifted into memory. We see the prince's childhood, harsh and suffocating. His father, the king, was strict and often beat him for the smallest reasons. He was deprived of simple joys, even forbidden from wearing or touching the color red because it belonged to the king. He couldn't walk ahead of his father, always forced to follow, obeying without question. Mr. Lee snapped out of it. Instead of showing weakness, the prince calmly told Hyuju to eat freely because once she married him, she wouldn't be able to. Later, the prince returned to the palace, where the maid bombarded him with questions, clearly upset he broke the rules by going out with Hyuju. She decided to teach Hyuju royal etiquette from start to finish, to protect the palace's image. The next day, Hyuju left for work and was treated like royalty by Kim and the servants, to the point they were feeding her themselves. But as she stepped outside, the maid was already waiting. Before she could react, The prince called. Hyuju quickly got into her car and left. He told her she might be able to escape the maid for now, but she had to meet her eventually to learn proper royal conduct. Meanwhile, Taiju bought new shoes for his wife. She whispered to him, suggesting they treat Hyuju kindly for now. Once Hyuju married the prince, she wouldn't be allowed to run her company, so it was in their best interest to support her, give her expensive gifts, and approve the marriage. At the same time, Hyuju bought new clothes to impress the prince. But when she returned to the palace, the maid was waiting again, insisting it was time to learn etiquette, how to stand, walk, and speak like royalty. Hyuju tried, but her walk looked more like a soldier than a queen, making it almost comical. Yet within moments, she managed to win the maid over, even flipping the dynamic. The second she saw the prince, she ran to him, begging him to take the maid away, because she couldn't handle the training anymore. The next day, Leon sat with Mr. Lee playing chess. Mr. Lee told him the rituals were over, and it was time to begin the next phase. Leon dismissed him, disappointed he didn't support his marriage, and refused to bring it up again in the meeting. It became clear Mr. Lee was acting in his own interest. But if Leon acted the same way, the country would fall into chaos. Meanwhile, the maid explained royal funerals to Hyuju. The last one had been in 2005. The Queen Hyeon had died 20 years ago in a car accident. The king died 7 years later from a heart attack, and 3 years ago, the prince's brother, Crown Prince Yoon's father, died in a fire. Since then, royal funerals had been kept secret. Hearing this, Hyuju broke down in tears and ran to her room. She searched the incidents online, the accident, the heart attack, the fire, and felt a deep guilt toward the prince. She tried calling him, but he didn't answer. At that moment, Leon was with the queen. She introduced Jong and said there was a royal dinner with correspondence the next day. Since she was unwell, she suggested he take Jong instead. Leon responded coldly, saying she seemed too sick lately and might even have something contagious. He ordered the maid to have a doctor check her 3 times a day. As for the dinner, he would go alone. He left without waiting for a reply. Back in his office, he ordered Choi to investigate Jong's background. Then he called Hyuju, asking irritably if she needed anything because he was busy. Hyuju stayed calm. She told him she would stand by his side, that she would never take a step forward without him, because they were one. Her words affected him deeply. He ended the call and ordered Choi to prepare. He was going to the royal suite that night. Later, Hyuju continued etiquette training, struggling to walk properly, dropping items repeatedly. Then Crown Prince Yoon entered with Mr. Lee, looking upset. He felt isolated, unable to live like other children. Hyuju couldn't ignore it. She played with him, encouraging Lee and the servants to join, creating a rare, joyful moment. But Yoon insisted on riding in her new car. Despite objections, she couldn't refuse him. She asked Mr. Lee and the head servant to follow them. On the road, as they laughed and enjoyed the moment, everything changed. The brakes failed. The car sped out of control. Yoon panicked, terrified. Hyuju tried to stay calm, focusing only on keeping him safe as the car raced uncontrollably. The prince heard the news and rushed out, risking everything. He drove at full speed, chasing them. At the last moment, he managed to stop the car before disaster struck, but in the process, he was injured. Despite the pain, there was only one thing on his mind. He had saved them. Both of them are rushed to the hospital. The moment the queen hears the news, her heart drops in terror for the crown prince. She rushes to the hospital, barely seeing where she's going. There, she finds the Prime Minister Mr. Lee standing in front of her, and she starts shouting at him for failing to protect the crown prince, convinced the car was targeted and someone was trying to eliminate him. He asks her to calm down and assures her that Yan the king is in very good condition. The queen enters to check on him and feels relieved when she sees he's fine, but she is shocked when she hears that Prince Ian was present during the accident and had to go into surgery after injuring his left shoulder while trying to stop the car at any cost. At that moment, the assistant calls Mr. Lee aside and asks to speak with him privately. He tells him that photos of the accident have spread across social media, and fortunately, it was Hyuju's car that drew attention, while the royal guard vehicles were far from the accident site and cameras. We also learn that Hyuju lost consciousness, but tests confirm she's fine. Unfortunately, the queen overhears their conversation. She becomes furious, burning with rage when she learns that Hyuju was behind this disaster from the beginning. In extreme anger, she storms toward Hyuju's room, intending to humiliate her in the hospital, but Mr. Lee blocks her path and advises her not to enter. Right now, people believe Hyuju's car was involved in the accident. The crown prince was with her, and Prince Leon was injured while while saving them after a reckless traffic violation. If the full details leak, the Crown Prince will bear all the blame, causing a real royal scandal, and unpredictable consequences could follow. He assures her that everything he's doing is a cover-up to protect the palace's reputation and her personal interests above all else. Meanwhile, we see Choi and the maid standing outside the operating room, nearly losing their minds with worry for Prince Leon. The doctor comes out and reassures them that the surgery was successful and that within an hour at most, he will be transferred to his room. He confirms that his arm is fine with no fractures, just a minor injury. After that, Mr. Lee leaves and asks Choi to increase the security in front of Hyuju's room because he's worried about her, and he insists that he be informed immediately when she wakes up. Meanwhile, Crown Prince regains consciousness. The first thing on his mind is Hyuju. His feet carry him straight to her room. He stands in front of her, recalling the moment of the accident, how she protected him and cared more about him than herself. The moment he approaches and touches her hand, she wakes up quickly, forgetting her pain. She panics when she remembers the accident, fearing he might have been hurt. He keeps apologizing because he insisted on taking the car out, which caused the disaster. They reassure each other that they're both fine, but suddenly, she remembers Prince Leon and asks about him. He smiles and tells her that, unlike her, he didn't lose consciousness. He went straight into surgery. The moment Hyuju hears that Prince Leon was injured, she rushes to his room. She starts scolding him for saving her and hurting himself. She leans close to his face and jokes that there's nothing special about him except his face, teasing him to lighten the tension. Honestly, he is very gentle with her, to the point that she tells him he treats her as if he truly loves her and has fallen for her. He laughs at her words, but it's clear that he really has fallen in love with her. The next day, we see Tuiju and his wife training to match her new status. Suddenly, he receives a call from his father, telling him about the disaster Hyuju caused. He quickly turns on the TV and sees the news everywhere about Hyuju, the owner of Castle Beauty, who was driving at high speed, while the police are still investigating. When Taiju hears this, he loses his mind, takes his wife, and rushes to meet his father. At the hospital, the secretary appears trying to enter Hyuju's room, but the guards stop her until Hyuju comes out and takes her inside, saying she belongs with her. There, secretary shows her the disaster caused by the accident. Her company's shares plummeted within just 3 minutes, and the board of directors is tense and demanding to meet her as soon as she leaves the hospital. Hyuju ignores everything she says and feels upset that her father and brother learned the news, but no one asked about her or checked on her. The secretary gets angry in her usual dramatic way, repeatedly questioning how the accident happened and accusing her of being drunk. Hyuju explains that the brakes had failed and that the crown prince was with her, which is why the investigation must remain confidential, and no one, not even the press, should know. The secretary loses it, jumping around from stress, telling her that she got herself into this marriage from the start. Ever since the Prince Leon entered her life, everything has been turned upside down. Every day brings a new disaster, from being pelted with eggs to being accused of setting the palace on fire, and now she almost died. Hyuju responds that the Prince Leon saved her life. The secretary gets annoyed by this repeated line and says she talks as if they love each other, when in reality, she'll divorce him after 3 years because it's a marriage of convenience. Unfortunately, Mr. Lee enters by chance and overhears everything. He discovers that Hyuju is marrying the Prince Leon not out of love as she made him believe. He confronts her, and she admits that it's a mutually beneficial marriage, an exchange of interests. She even proposed to him 3 times, and he refused every time. She reminds him that she has everything: money, talent, ambition, but lacks status. The Prime Minister, Mr. Lee, sits beside her and tells her that if she's marrying a Prince Leon just for status, then it would be better for her to marry him instead. The next day, Hyuju enters the Prince Leon's room, but is shocked to find he has already left the hospital without telling her. She tries calling him, but he doesn't answer. She starts to feel that their marriage won't last. The secretary tells her that she saw him early in the morning, standing outside her room, when Mr. Lee was with her. She asks if he said anything. Hyuju recalls Mr. Lee's words and suspects that he must have overheard their conversation, which is why he's not responding. She screams in shock, but the bigger shock is that the Prince Leon ordered the servants to throw her out of the royal suite and return all her belongings. Even the card in his name was taken back. She leaves the palace, unable to stand herself, still calling him, but he doesn't answer. The surprise comes when we learn that he did hear her talking to Mr. Lee, saying that the marriage was purely for benefit and social status. He is deeply hurt and gets off at the first stop. Hyuju sends him a message asking him to face her directly instead of playing games. She goes to the palace and confronts him, asking how he could leave the hospital without telling her and then throw her out. She suspects the queen is behind it, or that he overheard her conversation with Mr. Lee. He tells her that the accident was deliberate, that someone intended to kill her, and because of that, he will change the plan and cancel their marriage. She is shocked and asks how he could cancel it. She insists that the queen must be the reason, and reminds him that the crown prince insisted on riding with her. It wasn't her fault. If the accident was intentional, then she is the victim, but he responds with words like poison, saying he cannot marry someone like her who breaks rules and threatens the throne with her problems. Hearing this, Huju feels truly hurt and broken, but she maintains her pride in front of him. After that, we see Taiju sitting with his father, provoking him against Huju. He shows him details of the accident, claiming she was driving recklessly at high speed and must have been under the influence, blaming her for her relationship with the Prince Leon and for the company's falling shares, warning that the company could collapse at any moment. At that moment, Huju enters and finds them speaking badly about her. Calmly, she tells them she will soon release an official statement revealing the truth, confirming that substances have nothing to do with what happened. Her father shocks her by revealing that he knows the Prince Leon threw her out of the palace, used her, and then abandoned her. She becomes furious that he has someone following her, but calmly replies that she also used him. The company's shares skyrocketed as soon as news of their marriage spread. She adds angrily that there's nothing wrong if the shares drop a little after all the profit they made. Before leaving, she tells him to call her next time, instead of summoning her repeatedly. Then she leaves and calls the secretary, ordering her to find the last mechanic who worked on her car. At the palace, we see Choi, with the Prince Leon, confused about why he suddenly broke off with Hyuju and canceled their engagement. Leon hesitates, then says he was afraid for her. He recalls his mother's death in a car accident and Mr. Lee's words that this accident was deliberate and her car was tampered with. He was advised to keep her away from the palace to ensure her safety. Coming out of his thoughts, he tells Choi that he must prepare a farewell gift worthy of her status. The next day, Huju is surprised when Choi arrives with an invitation to a royal event, the royal banquet. It is a very important occasion. He presents her with an expensive dress sent by the Prince Leon, specifically for her to wear. He informs her that she must not wear white because the queen is the only one who wears it. Choi reminds her that attending the banquet will open many royal invitations for her, boost her business, and confirm that their relationship has not ended. Strangely, after all that, Huju refuses to attend. She tells him the marriage is over, so there's no reason for her to go. Choi returns to the palace and tells the Prince Leon what Huju said, that she almost threw him out after he begged her to attend, but she firmly refused. Later, the queen sits with the prince and asks about the fate of his relationship with Huju, especially after hearing he expelled her from the royal suite. He tells her he did it to protect her, and that he has decided to proceed with the marriage, on one condition, that she personally invites Huju to the royal banquet, because he doesn't want her to suffer after their separation. From that day on, every time the Prince Leon sends for her, she refuses, to the point that he starts thinking she has gone mad. Choi tells him she has every right. She doesn't want any connection with him after he left her midway and walked away. After that, we see the secretary calling Hyuju, telling her that she tracked down the mechanic and managed to get information about him, but unfortunately, she found no criminal record on him. Hyuju immediately uses her intelligence and asks her to check the surveillance camera of the supermarket across from the workshop. As soon as the call ends, Hyuju receives a message from the Prince Leon asking to meet her. She goes to meet him, and he asks in confusion why she's afraid to attend the banquet when he has prepared everything for her outfit, her appearance, even etiquette lessons. She looks at him and says, "Didn't you say I bring trouble everywhere I go and cause disasters? Then why are you insisting I attend the banquet?" The Prince Leon gets upset and tells her he's protecting her, especially since they're not even married yet, and all this has already happened. So what more could happen if they actually got married? She stands up and calls him a coward. Suddenly, she grabs an arrow and says sarcastically, "Looks like you love cats. Maybe you should try protecting them." Before she can shoot, he rushes forward, snatches the arrow from her, and ends up injuring his hand. He gets angry and tells her she must be crazy. She grabs his hand and tells him that to protect someone, you have to attack and resist. All she has seen from him is submission, and that's why he keeps losing to people beneath him. She tells him that what she wanted from him wasn't just status. He needs to fight and struggle to reach his goals. At that moment, we see the company's team monitoring surveillance cameras, trying to locate the mechanic. They finally spot him in one of the cameras and discover that he paid using the Castle Card app. The real shock is that Hyuju's father is responsible for that company. Later, we see Mr. Lee standing under the moonlight, remembering Hyuju's words when he proposed to her. We learn she rejected him because his term of authority is only 5 years, and even if the Prince Leon divorces her, he will still remain a Prince Leon from the royal family. But Mr. Lee's situation is different. He would need to serve another term. It becomes clear that she calculated everything carefully, valuing benefit over emotions. On the last day, the Prince Leon calls Hyuju and asks her to attend the banquet because it's in her best interest. She apologizes for not intending to hurt him or the cats. He also apologizes for not being able to keep his promise to her. The next day at the company, Choi is overjoyed that Hyuju will attend the banquet. He keeps explaining everything in detail about the banquet protocol. He tells her that every guest has an official rank in the royal court, and that rank determines where they sit based on social hierarchy. He continues explaining that the banquet is divided into 2 parts. The first part is a smaller gathering where the queen meets the guests and gets acquainted with them. The second part is a grand event called the after banquet, attended by guests' partners, cabinet members, and senior royal family members, much larger and more luxurious. However, he informs her that she has no official rank, since she is neither a government official nor a noble, which means she will sit at the back of the hall, always in the last row. Hyuju laughs and says, "So if I were already married, I'd be sitting in the front row by now?" A few days later, preparations for the banquet begin. The queen is very happy because Hyuju is not attending, or so she thinks. Suddenly, without warning, Hyuju appears in front of her, wearing a modern, elegant white suit, breaking all the rules and protocols as if challenging her. The queen is furious, but holds herself back. She decides to walk outside with the noblewomen, and when she notices Hyuju is uncomfortable under the sun, she takes advantage of it, forcing her to walk a long distance in the heat to remind her she is still second class. Suddenly, everyone is surprised when the Prince Leon himself approaches Hyuju. He asks her to teach him how to lead the way and promises that he will no longer submit to anyone and will fight alongside her with all his strength. They walk together with dignity in front of everyone. Later, Hyuju prepares for the grand event, wearing a stunning dress with the help of the maid. The Prince Leon waits nervously for her, like someone awaiting exam results. The moment he sees her, he is completely stunned by her beauty. At the same time, Crown Prince Yan prepares for the banquet. Although the queen asked him not to attend, he insists on being there to crush anyone who might try to ruin the celebration. Meanwhile, the queen enters the banquet elegantly dressed, accompanied by Minister Mr. Lee. She selects a noble girl and hints to Mr. Lee that this girl is suitable for the Prince Leon, as if trying to control everything, and implying that Hyuju is just a guest who will soon leave. As the banquet begins, Prince Leon enters in his formal attire, looking like a movie star, holding Hyuju's hand. She wears a breathtaking dress, like Cinderella. Everyone is mesmerized by their beauty and elegance. They begin their first dance together. In the middle of the dance, in a romantic move, the Prince Leon surprises everyone. He kneels on one knee and proposes to her in front of everyone using his mother, Queen Hyun's ring. Hyuju can hardly believe it from the overwhelming joy as she puts on the ring. But the Prince Leon doesn't stop there. He takes her hand and goes to the Crown Prince Yan, asking him to bless their marriage. The queen rushes like a madwoman to stop Yan and make him refuse, but Crown Prince Yan stands and announces his approval, blessing the marriage in front of the press cameras, capturing every moment. The news spreads like wildfire, and everyone is happy for them, except the queen, who is boiling with rage. We then see Mr. Lee, confused and shaken, stepping out to catch his breath as he feels everything has fallen apart. The queen approaches him, trying to convince him to use his authority to stop the marriage, but he refuses, saying that since the crown prince himself approved it, he cannot go against his orders. He leaves her. The queen returns, and the Prince Leon asks her to dance. She tells him she never imagined he would deceive her like this, warning him she won't let the marriage continue so easily. He responds that she cannot oppose a royal decree issued by the crown prince, and that if she wants the marriage to proceed, it will be under his conditions, not anyone else's. He shocks her by revealing that he knows dangerous secrets about the modification of the late king's will. She is stunned and realizes she has fallen into a trap. On the other side, Hyuju dances with Mr. Lee. He remembers their school days, showing he still cares about her. She asks him not to oppose the marriage and to give her a chance to prove herself. He agrees, on one condition, that she stops lying to him and becomes honest, and in return, he will stand by her side. After the banquet, Hyuju is extremely happy with the queen's ring. She tells the Prince Leon she used to see his mother wearing it all the time. Their relationship begins to grow closer, even though they agreed the marriage is just for mutual benefit. The Prince Leon laughs and tells her the ring is a national treasure and she will return it after the divorce, but it's clear he is already becoming attached to her. Later, Choi sits with Secretary, and it becomes clear he has fallen for her. The Prince Leon then enters with Hyuju, and Secretary tells her that all media outlets want interviews with her after the sensation she caused. Hyuju agrees immediately and asks the Prince Leon to allow her to wear the ring during the interview the next day. At the same time, Taiju appears happy that his sister will marry the Prince Leon, but he suspects something is wrong, especially after learning that the mechanic has died, which means something big is about to happen. The next day, Noble Rang arrives and meets the queen, shocked that she agreed to the marriage. She tells him there's nothing she can do since it's a royal decree, but reveals a bigger problem. The Prince Leon knows everything about the late king's will. We learn that the king had written in his will that Prince Leon should inherit the throne, but she tore and burned the will and was responsible for his death so that the crown prince would take the throne instead. She tells Rang she agreed to the marriage not because she supports it, but because she cannot oppose it, and instead, she will prove that Hyuju is the prince's weakness and place her directly in danger. Hyuju then gives an interview with the press, speaking beautifully about the Prince Leon, mentioning they were classmates, and emphasizing how he protects her. At the same time, the Prince Leon watches the interview and laughs at her innocence, clearly showing he has truly fallen in love with her. Later, Hyuju returns to the royal suite after the Prince Leon asks her to come back under his protection, as there is a spy among them reporting to the queen. Because of this, Du decides to stay with her in the palace to watch over her. The next day, Hyuju arrives at the palace with Mr. Lee to meet the Prince Leon. He decides that their wedding will be a royal one, especially after all the incidents. It must be a day people will talk about for a long time. During their conversation, Mr. Lee tries to get closer to Hyuju and jokes with her, but the prince becomes visibly jealous. He reminds himself that in just 2 days she will be his wife, so he shouldn't behave this way, but he is shocked when he realizes Mr. Lee knows about their arrangement. He argues with Hyuju for trusting Mr. Lee, but she reassures him that Mr. Lee is the one she trusts most, and that they need him on their side to achieve their goals, especially since she doesn't fully trust the Prince Liane and believes he might abandon her at any moment. Because of this, the two of them sit down and begin writing the terms of their marriage. It will last for 3 years, and everything between them must remain secret. Before they can finish, the queen enters, and they quickly hide the paper. She says she heard they were there and came personally to invite them to dinner, since they will soon be family. They gather at the table, laughing and joking, but the queen tries to drive a wedge between them by provoking the Prince Leon with words about his father and brother, blaming him for their deaths. Hyuju can't tolerate it any longer. She stands by his side, takes him, and leaves. She tells him she is barely holding herself back because they're not married yet, but if she could, she would have dragged the queen by her hair. She assures him that once they're married, she will eliminate anyone who stands in his way. He laughs at her words and asks her to take him out of the palace because he is tired of it and everything in it. She takes him to her yacht, feeds him all the food he's been deprived of, and tries to free him from the restrictions of his life, letting him experience a bit of freedom. They spend a pleasant time together. We also learn that before the banquet, the Prince Leon went to her personally, and they practiced their dance together, showing that their love story had started long before. When Hyuju suddenly slips, but Leon quickly catches her before she can fall, she immediately grows flustered around him. After that, they return to the palace, both visibly tense. The servants become worried when they notice the prince has returned without his guards, so they start asking if the two of them had gone somewhere alone, which is why they left the guards behind, but both of them deny it at the exact same moment, making the servants even more suspicious, especially since their nervousness is obvious. Leon quickly ends the situation and tells Hyuju to go rest in her room. She agrees and leaves. Once she lies in bed, she cannot stop thinking about Leon and the last moment they shared together. The thoughts keep her awake all night. On the other side, Leon is also thinking about her. Eventually, he leaves his room and goes to her door. Hyuju is shocked when she finds him standing there, but she becomes even more nervous and does not answer him. Leon only laughs softly before walking away. The next morning, Hyuju heads out to work, trying to sneak away so Leon will not see her, but he is already walking behind her. The moment he calls her name, she gets startled and almost falls again like usual, but he catches her in time and grabs her hands. The second she sees him, she becomes flustered and runs away from him, telling him she is late for work. Leon can only laugh at her reaction. Later, Hyuju goes to the church because she genuinely starts believing she is possessed from how much she keeps thinking about the prince. But while she is there, she suddenly receives a call from Leon. He talks to her about the wedding preparations, but at that moment, Mr. Lee calls out to her. Hyuju is forced to hang up on Leon, which annoys him greatly because he wants to know who is with her. Choi notices Leon's reaction and keeps teasing him about it. Meanwhile, Hyuju rides in Mr. Lee's car. While he is driving, she notices him smiling and says he seems to enjoy driving exactly like the prince does. She keeps talking about Leon, which irritates Mr. Lee because he begins to feel that she is starting to fall for Leon. When he drops her off at work, he warns her not to get attached to Ian because they are destined to divorce eventually, and in the end, she could get hurt. Hyuju becomes upset by his words, though she hides it, and tells him she is not stupid enough to fall in love with him. After reaching her office, Hyuju tells her secretary to bring her brother to her. It is revealed that she plans to make him the heir to her shares. Back at the palace, the lady-in-waiting gives the young king a list of dates so he can choose a wedding date for the prince. Leon enters, and the young king tells him he is thinking about choosing the first day of the month. Leon looks over the dates and deliberately chooses a different one. When the king asks why, Leon says he still needs more time. The king agrees and selects Leon's choice. Then the scene shifts to Hyuju as she visits the branches of her company. She warns everyone that even after marriage, she will continue monitoring the sales herself. At that moment, her brother enters with his wife. Hyuju is surprised to see her sister-in-law and wonders what brought her there. The woman immediately clings to Hyuju and says she missed her, which is why she came, but Hyuju pays her no attention. Hyuju then tells her brother she is handing all her shares over to him, but if he wastes them, she will kill him. After saying that, she leaves. Her brother is left stunned that she truly transferred her shares in the company to him, while his wife looks delighted by what happened. Afterward, Hyuju goes to the place where they are preparing the wedding outfits. She becomes nervous when she sees Leon there too, and pretends to busy herself with something else, but Choi tells her to come out and try on the dress. Once she finishes, Leon walks closer to her. She startles, but he only fixes her hair. Hyuju becomes deeply embarrassed because it happens in front of everyone. She quickly signals to her assistant and says they are late for work, but Choi interrupts and says the doctor will arrive shortly to conduct mandatory medical examinations before the wedding. He also tells her that tomorrow they are invited to her father's house because, according to tradition, the husband must greet the bride's father. The secretary confirms that her father already knows. Choi continues explaining that he is going now to deliver the wedding gifts to her family home. At her father's house, Choi delivers the gifts and reads a royal decree personally written by the young king before handing it to Hyuju's father. He explains that although wedding ceremonies are usually supposed to begin from the bride's home, due to security precautions, the ceremony will instead begin from the prince's private residence. Her father's face clearly shows his disapproval, not only toward the arrangement, but toward the marriage itself. Meanwhile, the wife of Hyuju's brother looks thrilled that the wedding will happen at the prince's residence, completely living in her own fantasy world. But Hyuju's father angrily tells Choi to finish speaking quickly because he is busy with work. Meanwhile, the doctor performs a preliminary examination on Hyuju. Choi informs her they will later need to visit the hospital for a complete checkup, but Ian interrupts and orders everyone to leave them alone. It becomes clear that he noticed how tense she has been and how unlike herself she seems. He gently asks if she is all right. Hyuju complains that he keeps acting kindly toward her in front of everyone and constantly stares at her in ways that make her unable to focus. Ian laughs and tells her those are simply his normal looks. At the same time, the queen's assistant tells her about Leon's latest behavior and says he seemed upset earlier that morning. Then Queen decides to go take a walk with the prince. When she meets Leon, she asks whether something is bothering him and whether it has anything to do with what happened between him and Hyuju during dinner the previous night. Leon denies it. Then she asks if something happened between him and Hyuju that made him upset with her. Leon immediately responds, "So you want that to happen?" The queen continues and says that he and Hyuju come from completely different worlds, so it is impossible for them to ever get along. Leon embarrasses her by replying, "You and my brother came from the same world. Did you two get along? Were you happy together?" Yun is unable to answer him. The story then flashes back to the past. Back when their relationship was still good, the queen had been arguing with her husband because he refused to accompany her to an event she wanted to attend. Leon entered at that moment and offered to go with her instead. She warned him his father might scold him, but Ian casually replied that his father scolds him all the time anyway. Back in the present, the queen tells him there can never be happiness within royal life. The scene then moves to the queen dowager as she remembers the past after the king died. The king had gone to her and told her the press would soon learn about the king's death, meaning the crown prince would have to inherit the throne. She completely broke down and revealed that the king had abandoned the throne for the prince instead. She explains that she had to protect her son's future, which is why she did what she did. Leon is shocked and asks if she was truly behind the fire. She confirms it herself and admits that she burned everything. Later, Leon looks at the marriage contract between himself and Hyuju before locking it away in his safe. Then he takes out the king's will, the document relinquishing the throne, revealing that he has possessed it all along. The next day, Leon and Hyuju head to her father's estate. Choi warns them that people may be waiting outside to see them, so they must smile, and Hyuju should walk behind the prince. Hyuju is visibly nervous about seeing her father. She quietly asks Choi how long they are supposed to stay there. Choi tells her at least 4 hours. Hyuju is horrified. Leon notices immediately and realizes her relationship with her father is terrible. When they arrive, her family welcomes them. Her father asks Leon to take care of Hyuju and protect her, especially since she is marrying into a palace notorious for scandals and accidents. Leon reassures him that he will protect her, but Hyuju suddenly laughs sarcastically and tells her father he does not need to pretend he loves her. She points out that when she got into an accident, he never even called to check on her. Her father ignores her words and dismisses her as immature and ignorant. Hyuju becomes visibly upset and nearly bursts into tears, but she changes the subject and mockingly asks whether he plans to give her a wedding gift, the same way he gave her brother company shares at his wedding. Her brother immediately tells her to be quiet because the prince is present. Hyuju stands up and apologizes for losing control before leaving. Her father remains silent and says nothing to stop her. Leon rises and says he will go check on her. When he enters her room, he notices it is filled with medals she won. Hyuju tells him to leave and says she will come downstairs once she calms down, but Leon ignores her and sits beside her instead. She feels ashamed that he witnessed her family relationship in such a humiliating way. Leon gently tells her, "My family is even worse than yours." To comfort her, he promises that he will always stay by her side and give her whatever she wants. Hyuju suddenly asks him if he loves her. Leon is startled. She explains that his behavior and the way he treats her make her feel like he loves her. Leon falls silent for a moment before finally admitting that he truly does love her and that this is the first time he has ever liked someone this much. Then he asks if she is afraid he will refuse to divorce her later. He reassures her not to worry because he would never force her to stay with him if she no longer wanted him. Afterward, he takes her back to the residence while he himself returns to the palace. When Hyuju arrives, she finds the servants waiting anxiously for news. They were so eager that they had not even eaten. Hyuju takes them out to eat together, including the spy planted by the queen. The spy begins feeling guilty because Hyuju treats her so kindly. The next day, Leon visits Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is surprised by the sudden visit, but the moment Leon enters, he says without hesitation that he loves Hyuju. Because of that, Mr. Lee needs to be careful with how he behaves around her. Then the wedding day finally arrives. Hyuju is prepared for the ceremony, and they bring her wedding attire, which is bright red. She becomes happy that she can finally enter the palace wearing red, unlike before. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee encounters Queen. She asks whether he is all right, leaving him confused. She tells him she is waiting for the day when he will no longer be able to control himself before walking away. Then the wedding ceremony begins at the prince's residence. Hyuju appears, leaving everyone stunned by her beauty. Even her father becomes emotional. Hyuju walks toward the hall where Leon is waiting, but she nearly trips on the way before catching herself. Leon laughs softly at her. Soon after, the official announces their marriage, declaring Hyuju to be Leon's wife. They drink a ceremonial toast together before appearing publicly in front of the people. Their wedding is broadcast live on television. Mr. Lee watches the ceremony with visible sadness. Queen notices and tells him he should have stopped the marriage. She warns him that remaining silent for too long will eventually lead to an explosion. A short while later, Leon and Hyuju finally arrive at the palace. Mr. Lee congratulates them on their marriage, but before Hyuju can even respond, she suddenly starts coughing violently. Moments later, she collapses unconscious in front of everyone. It seems she has been poisoned. The queen immediately orders the servants to call the royal doctor, but Leon suddenly explodes in anger at everyone around him. He shouts that if he discovers what happened to Hyuju was intentional, he will destroy whoever did it. Furious, Secretary and Choi rush in and are horrified when they see Hyuju unconscious. The photographers inside the hall continue capturing everything that happened, while Leon's face clearly shows how terrified and worried he is for Hyuju. Mr. Lee also stands there, frozen in shock. Leon quickly picks Hyuju up and carries her outside the palace before placing her into the car. Reporters immediately surround him, asking whether what happened was an accident or if someone harmed her, but Leon ignores every question and heads straight to the hospital. He gives Mr. Lee orders to clear the roads for them and tells the assistant to have the royal guards secure the hospital. Meanwhile, when the Rang sees the news about what happened, he stands there completely stunned. Once Leon reaches the hospital, the doctors discover that Hyuju's blood pressure and breathing are dangerously weak. Sadly, she is not responding to the medication, and her pulse continues dropping. The doctor eventually asks Leon to leave the room, forcing him outside while he stands there helpless, unable to do anything for her. Back at the residence, the assistant orders the servants to leave everything exactly as it is. Anything Hyuju wore or ate must not be touched. The servants are confused, but she continues explaining that nobody is allowed to leave the residence. Then her eyes land on Queen's spy, who visibly starts panicking. At the hospital, Hyuju's father, brother, and sister-in-law arrive. Her father immediately questions Leon about what happened, but before anyone can answer, the doctor walks out with the blood test results. The doctor reveals they found digoxin poison in Hyuju's bloodstream, a drug normally used to treat irregular heartbeats, but fatal in excessive doses. Everyone is horrified. However, the doctor quickly reassures them that they managed to save her before the poison spread completely and that she should recover within a few hours. Hyuju's brother angrily yells that the doctor should have started with those reassuring words before terrifying them all. At that moment, Hyuju's father turns toward Leon, as if blaming him for everything. Then, shocking everyone, he suddenly slaps Leon across the face. The royal guards rush forward, but Leon shouts at them to stay where they are. Hyuju's father continues, saying he will never let what happened to his daughter pass without consequences. Leon calmly agrees and promises he will personally take revenge on whoever did this. The scene shifts to Queen, who is visibly nervous. Her assistant enters and reports the news that someone poisoned the princess. The Queen pretends to be shocked and acts as though she knows nothing. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee is furious and storms around searching for Leon. The second he sees him, he explodes, saying he knew Leon would never be able to protect Hyuju and that he could not even keep her safe for a single day. Leon calmly responds that this is exactly why he is here. They will investigate everyone involved, from the servants all the way to the royal family itself. Mr. Lee mocks the idea of investigating members of the royal family, but Leon remains firm and officially orders a full investigation throughout the palace. When Mr. Lee informs Queen, she refuses immediately, but he tells her the incident happened inside the palace, meaning everyone will be investigated. The Queen is shocked that they would dare investigate her. Mr. Lee explains that this is Prince Leon's order. She angrily reminds him that Leon is only the prince, not the king. Mr. Lee answers that Leon is the king's regent, making his authority absolute. Later, Mr. Lee holds a press conference and informs the public that the princess was hospitalized but should recover within hours. When reporters ask whether someone is behind the incident, Mr. Lee confirms that an investigation has been opened and strongly implies that Hyuju was intentionally poisoned. He also announces announces a full investigation into everyone involved and promises no outside force will influence the results. Back at the prince's residence, every servant is arrested for questioning, even Hyuju's assistant. Inside Hyuju's hospital room, Choi sits with Hyuju's brother and his wife. From their conversation, it becomes clear this is the first time in history that members of the royal family are being investigated. Choi visibly looks irritated by their presence and bluntly asks whether they ever plan on leaving. Hyuju's brother replies that their father ordered them not to leave until Hyuju wakes up because he is worried about her. At that exact moment, Hyuju finally regains consciousness and everyone becomes overjoyed. Meanwhile, Leon is still at the palace handling the investigation when the maid runs to him and tells him Hyuju has awakened. Leon immediately runs to the hospital. The moment he sees her, he pulls her into his arms and hugs her tightly in front of everyone. After all, she is his wife now. While crying, he asks if she is all right. Hyuju is shocked to see him crying because she has no idea everything he did for her while she was unconscious. Leon confesses that he truly believed he had lost her forever. Hyuju gently comforts him and tells him she is all right now. She asks him what exactly happened to her, but before he can answer, Mr. Lee enters because they need to question Leon for the investigation. Leon leaves, but orders Choi to stay beside Hyuju and never leave her alone. Choi reassures him that he will protect her. During the investigation, the officer asks Leon whether he noticed any unusual symptoms in Hyuju or whether she suffers from any illness. Leon coldly asks if the officer even read the doctor's report. The officer then asks whether Leon recognizes the substance used to poison her. Leon goes silent for a moment before finally admitting that he does know it because it is the same medicine he himself occasionally takes. Back in Hyuju's room, she shocks everyone when she tells Mr. Lee that during the wedding ceremony, after she stumbled, the glasses were accidentally switched and she drank Leon's glass instead. That is when she realizes the true target was never her. Someone was trying to kill Leon. Hyuju immediately grows terrified for him and desperately wants to go see him because she knows he is still in danger. Meanwhile, during the investigation, it becomes clear Leon already knew he was the intended victim. If he had drunk the poison himself, he would have died. Back at the hospital, Hyuju tries leaving her room, but Choi blocks her path and says those are the prince's orders. Her safety comes before everything else. Then Mr. Lee arrives and says he will personally go check on Leon while she should return to her room and rest. The story shifts to Queen, whose assistant informs her that the prince's residence is already being searched. Even the cars they rode in are being inspected. After the investigation ends, Leon returns to the hospital and finds Mr. Lee waiting there. Mr. Lee tells him he should go back to the palace. Leon refuses, saying his wife is hospitalized and asking how he could possibly leave. Mr. Lee explains that the palace is actually safer for them right now, especially since Hyuju will be discharged tomorrow and return there anyway. He steps closer to Leon and quietly tells him his presence at the palace is necessary if he wants to maintain control over everything happening there. Leon finally agrees and returns to the palace. Once there, he orders the maid to strengthen royal security and replace many of the servants. He declares that he will protect his wife no matter what. The next morning, Hyuju is in her room with the doctor and Choi. When her brother's wife arrives, Hyuju immediately asks why she came again. The woman says she came to check on her and reveals that both Leon and Hyuju's father requested that she stay beside her. Hyuju secretly feels happy hearing that Leon was worried about her. The doctor announces that Hyuju's condition has improved, though she still needs monitoring once she returns to the palace. A little later, Hyuju deliberately applies makeup to make herself look sick in front of the reporters because she knows if the media sees her looking healthy, they will accuse her of faking everything. Her sister-in-law advises her to look pitiful and fragile when facing the cameras. Hyuju follows the advice perfectly. The moment she exits, she keeps coughing weakly and her photographs spread everywhere. She looks incredibly fragile and miserable. Her company immediately uses the images for public sympathy, portraying her as a poor girl trapped inside the cruel palace. Soon, public opinion turns in her favor and stories spread accusing Queen of being heartless and oppressive. Queen herself reads the articles and simply laughs. When Hyuju arrives back at the palace, Queen personally comes outside to welcome her. Queen tells her that for her safety, every meal she eats will now be carefully monitored, but Hyuju completely ignores her and walks straight into her wing. Inside, she finds the young king waiting for her because he had been worried. Hyuju comforts him and refuses to tell him the truth, instead claiming she only had stomach pain, which caused her to faint. Soon, Leon arrives and greets the young king before immediately giving the maid strict instructions about who is and is not allowed to enter Hyuju's wing. Hyuju becomes overwhelmed by the endless security orders. Finally, she calls out to Leon softly and looks at him with teary eyes, asking if they can be alone together. Her expression affects everyone watching, especially Leon himself, who immediately grows flustered and orders everyone to leave the room. Once they are alone, Hyuju tells him they should not be protecting her. They should be protecting him because he is the real target. Leon calmly replies that he already knows. She is shocked by how calm he is, so Leon explains that he would only probably panic if she were the one truly in danger. Hyuju stares at him in shock, tears filling her eyes. Because she is genuinely terrified for him, she begins lightly hitting him while trying to hide how scared she is for him, saying that if anything happened to him, she would never get the chance to divorce him. Leon laughs softly at her words. At the same time, in Min's office, the lab results from the wedding glass finally arrive. They confirm the same poison used on Hyuju was inside the cup. Mr. Lee immediately remembers Hyuju's words at the hospital and realizes Leon truly is in danger. Later, Queen's spy assistant enters Min's office. Meanwhile at the palace, Choi walks beside Hyuju's assistant, casually talking about his life. It becomes obvious that Hyuju's assistant has started developing feelings for him, and he seems to feel the same way. The next day, everyone prepares to attend an event at the school Leon and Hyuju once attended, where scholarships and awards will be distributed. Hyuju is supposed to deliver the opening speech. As usual, Choi keeps overwhelming her with royal security instructions, which she immediately ignores the second she arrives with Leon. At the same time, in Min's office, his assistant suddenly shows him something shocking, making it clear a huge problem has appeared. Back at the event, Leon and Hyuju are informed that Prime Minister Mr. Lee will be late. Hyuju begins her speech and jokingly interacts with the students, who all respond enthusiastically to her warmth and humor. Then Choi suddenly receives a message on his phone. The second he reads it, he goes pale and immediately shows it to Leon, whose reaction is equally horrifying. Meanwhile, Hyuju continues her speech until she notices the students suddenly becoming distracted, whispering among themselves. Then, without warning, a huge group of reporters storms inside and confronts her about the leaked marriage contract between her and Leon. Hyuju panics and steps backward in fear, but Leon immediately moves in front of her, shielding her with his body. He tells her to look only at him and ignore everything else around her. Then he grabs her hand and leads her away from the chaos. Outside, they run into Mr. Lee, whose biggest concern now is figuring out how to get them safely out of the school. But Hyuju shocks him when she explains that the entire place is already surrounded by reporters and journalists, while the royal guards they brought with them are too few to control such a massive crowd. Leon immediately decides that he will leave first by himself, but Hyuju refuses and looks at him as if telling him they should stay together no matter what. The secretary and Choi leave first, protected by the royal guards, until they safely reach the car. During the escape, Hyuju and Leon suddenly realize they are still holding hands, leaving both of them embarrassed. Back inside the school, Mr. Lee desperately tries to think of a way to get them out safely. Meanwhile, Hyuju notices the breaking news everywhere, with everyone talking about the leaked contract. She starts feeling lost and overwhelmed, unsure of what to do. Leon notices immediately, gently holds her hand to calm her down, and asks if she is all right. All of this happens right in front of Mr. Lee, who grows visibly upset watching how close the two of them have become. Once they are finally alone, Mr. Lee asks if anyone besides them knew about the marriage contract. They tell him only the assistant knew. Mr. Lee says the safest solution right now is to stay silent and avoid responding to the media until everything calms down. But Leon immediately rejects the idea, angrily arguing that silence could backfire. He explains that while the contract may have started out fake, things are different now, meaning he truly loves Hyuju and genuinely wants to be with her. Mr. Lee fires back, asking if Leon really plans to go public and admit that he deceived everyone with a fake marriage at first. Then, he asks the most painful question of all: can Leon guarantee they will not divorce after 3 years, exactly as written in the contract? Both Leon and Hyuju fall silent, unable to answer him. The story then shifts to Hyuju's brother, who finally discovers Hyuju's original plan after the news spreads everywhere. He is furious because their family's reputation and company are collapsing, but his wife still believes Hyuju and the prince truly love each other. He snaps at her, saying none of that matters anymore because their entire family is being destroyed. Then, an even bigger disaster explodes. Rumors spread claiming Hyuju was actually the prime suspect behind the palace fire incident. People say her relationship with the prince was what saved her from punishment. With that, public opinion completely turns against them. At the same time, Hyuju and Leon watch the same news reports together. Hyuju sits there speechless, unable to respond to the endless accusations being thrown at her. The media even claims her collapse was all an act to gain public sympathy. Mr. Lee enters and tells them they must return to the palace immediately. Back at the palace, Queen calmly says the protests cannot be stopped. She seems almost happy, seeing how the people's love for Leon has transformed into hatred. Then she orders the assistant to prepare the meeting room because she intends to gather the entire royal family. A while later, Leon and Hyuju arrive at the palace. The secretary and Choi immediately guide them toward the meeting hall. Once inside, Leon tells Queen there was no need to summon the entire royal family and that the matter could have been resolved privately between them. Queen explodes in anger, asking how he dared disgrace all of them and bring shame upon the royal family. Then she turns toward Hyuju and keeps belittling her, insisting she is beneath their status and never belonged among them. Leon is about to defend Hyuju, but Hyuju quietly stops him herself. Afterward, Queen throws them both both out of the meeting hall. Leon leaves furious, while Hyuju grows worried, watching how angry he has become. The next morning, the assistant discovers that every department inside the company is suffering losses. Then, the Choi arrives. Even worse news. He tells her a new article has been released, claiming Hyuju faked her collapse. Outside the palace, crowds of protesters gather and demand that both the prince and princess come out and apologize publicly. At the same time, Prime Minister Mr. Lee arrives at the palace and meets Leon, who has finally reached his limit after all the rumors and accusations. Leon tells Mr. Lee he will personally end all of this himself. He admits that while the marriage may have started with a contract, everything between him and Hyuju eventually became real. Then, Mr. Lee asks him directly whether he truly intends to seize the throne. Leon looks at him coldly and replies, "If I were planning that, would I actually tell you?" Mr. Lee explains that the kingdom does not need a king unsupported by the people. Then he asks Leon to step down from his role as regent for the young king. But then the story jumps back 5 days earlier to reveal who was truly behind everything. Back when Mr. Lee was investigating Hyuju's poisoning and discovered she had genuinely been poisoned, Queen's spy entered his office. Mr. Lee had already learned that she was responsible for serving the drinks that night. He eventually discovered she had placed poison inside the prince's glass. However, she insists she never knew it was poison and only did it because she desperately needed money. Mr. Lee is shocked, saying Leon may be troublesome, but not to the point where someone would try to murder him. Mr. Lee then goes to confront Queen. He tells her the spy confessed she accepted money from Rung, her own father, making Queen herself a suspect as well. Queen becomes terrified, but Mr. Lee reveals Leon still knows nothing. Then Mr. Lee hands Queen proof that her father was behind the poisoning attempt before leaving. Queen immediately storms to confront her father and shows him the evidence. The Rang horrified when he sees it. Queen completely breaks down, asking how he could even think about murdering the prince, because if the truth were exposed, all of them would be destroyed. But the Rang angrily tells her that is exactly why Leon must disappear. Then he warns her that if people ever discover she was the one responsible for the king's death, she would also be ruined. Through her words, it becomes clear she never intended to kill the king. Her only goal had been to burn the royal decree naming Leon as heir to the throne, but the entire place caught fire unexpectedly. Afterward, Queen goes to Mr. Lee, confused about why he gave the evidence to her instead of showing it to Leon directly. She asks if he did it because he wants Hyuju for himself. Mr. Lee stays silent, and Queen immediately realizes she is right. She then pulls out the marriage contract and says exposing it would throw the nation into chaos, but Hyuju herself would remain unharmed. Mr. Lee insists he would never leak the contract, but Queen explains that this is the only way to destroy Leon, and once Leon falls, Mr. Lee would finally have the chance to take Hyuju for himself. The story then returns to the present, back to the moment Mr. Lee asks Leon to step down as regent. Leon laughs mockingly and tells him his authority is nowhere near enough to demand such a thing, but Mr. Lee replies that he is only fulfilling his duty to protect the crown. Meanwhile, the Choi tells Hyuju what Mr. Lee said to Leon and admits Mr. Lee crossed the line, especially during such a difficult time. Then, the maid arrives and informs Hyuju that Queen wishes to see her. When Hyuju meets Queen, the Queen tells her that everything happening to Leon is her fault and that she has destroyed everything he had. Then she asks Hyuju what the prince received in return for marrying her. Hyuju coldly replies, "Didn't you read the contract?" Then she tells Queen that Leon never asked her for anything at all. After saying that, Hyuju leaves, clearly upset. At the same time, the assistant rushes to Leon and tells him to go see the young king immediately because the Rang is there, trying to force him to sign something that would allow them to expel Leon from the palace. Inside the king's chamber, the Lord tells the child king that Leon will destroy the crown and must be removed quickly. When the young king refuses, the Lord begins shouting at him, claiming Leon looks down on him and that the people even believe Leon murdered his own brother. The little king bursts into tears. Right then, Leon arrives. The second he sees the Lord yelling at the child, he attacks him furiously and demands to know how he dares disrespect the king. Leon orders the lady-in-waiting to take the young king outside. Then he grabs the Lord and warns him that if he truly wants him removed from the palace, he will have to kill him first. At that moment, Hyuju arrives and desperately calms Leon down, begging him to let go of the Lord. Once Leon releases him, he immediately goes to comfort the young king, who is still crying. Leon suddenly remembers the past from 3 years earlier. Back then, he had been playing with the young king shortly before his older brother died. It turns out Leon had secretly witnessed the argument between Queen and his brother, where the king revealed he planned to give the throne to Leon instead. The young child had overheard everything too and started crying when Queen openly wished for his father's death. Back in the present, Leon hugs the crying child and gently promises he will always stay by his side. That night, Hyuju goes to Leon and tells him not to give up. She says if he truly wants to protect something he loves, he must keep fighting for it. Elsewhere, the Choi asks the secretary about the things she personally likes. She falls silent, unable to answer because she spent her entire life caring for others, and nobody ever cared enough to ask about her own preferences before. The next day, Hyuju's brother informs informs her that the prosecutor has begun investigating every member of the company's board of directors and plans to summon their father for questioning too. Hyu-ju immediately leaves in her car, with the Choi sitting beside her nervously as she drives recklessly fast. Eventually, she arrives at Mr. Lee's office and asks what she should do about the crisis. Mr. Lee tells her not to do anything because he will protect her himself, but Hyu-ju becomes angry and tells him she does not want his protection. Then she finally confesses the truth. She loves the prince. After leaving Mr. Lee's office, she goes to her family home. Her entire family is shocked when they find her sitting on the floor, admitting she made mistakes but begging them to help her. Her father stands up and asks her exactly who she wants them to save, herself or the prince. Hyu-ju answers without hesitation, "Save the prince. I can save myself." Everyone in the family is stunned that she is thinking about someone other than herself for the first time. Meanwhile, Leon learns from the secretary that Mr. Lee ordered all of his royal duties suspended. Leon immediately tells her not to inform Hyu-ju about it, but later that night, when Hyu-ju returns from visiting her family, Leon is left completely shocked when she suddenly asks him for a divorce. The story flashes back to earlier, when Hyu-ju begged her father to help save Leon. Her father told her the only solution was divorce. He explained that she needed to make herself appear like the greedy one who only wanted power. That way, the people attacking Leon would have nothing left against him and he could regain his position. But Hyu-ju had already fallen deeply in love with Leon and did not want them to separate. Through tears, she asked her father what she should do if she wanted to save herself instead. He replied that divorce would save her too. Then, he advised her to pull herself out of the hole she had dug before she caused Leon even greater harm. Back in the present, Leon immediately shocked and asks, "What is she saying?" Hyu-ju explains that they have to separate. She tells him her father is collapsing under the pressure, her company's shares are falling, and even her father is now being investigated. She says she originally married him only to become the heir of her family, but now her entire family and company are being destroyed because of it. She insists she wants to leave with the least amount of damage possible. Leon refuses to believe her. He asks if something happened or if the queen said something that hurt her. Hyu-ju angrily replies that it is none of his business. Then she continues, saying all the promises he made before marriage failed to come true. Her company is collapsing, her family's reputation has been ruined, and even he himself once admitted that the most important thing for a king is the love of the people, and now he has lost that too. Leon's expression shatters. He quietly begs her not to do this to him and not to abandon him too, but Hyu-ju insists she is losing everything and cannot stay beside him anymore. Afterward, Leon walks out of the room completely devastated. He goes to the room that once belonged to his older brother, the crown prince, and breaks down crying there. As he sits alone, he remembers the past. Back then, he had spoken with his older brother inside the same room and told him to take care of his wife because life was difficult for her and she depended on him. His brother laughed, saying she did not need him for anything. Leon called him a coward for running away from his responsibilities. His brother laughed again and admitted he was right, then told Leon he hoped he would never end up like him after marriage. Back in the present, Leon wonders if the pain he feels now is the same pain his brother felt back then. The next morning, Hyu-ju goes to Leon's office and asks if he worked all night. He coldly answers yes and asks what she wants. Hyu-ju asks him to allow her to attend the next council meeting beside him so she can personally announce their divorce herself. Leon quietly agrees and returns to work. Later, the secretary is left stunned when Choi tells her that Leon and Hyu-ju are divorcing. She cannot believe the prince agreed to it. Choi says nothing, remembering the conversation he had with Hyu-ju the previous night. At that time, Hyu-ju had explained that people had always called her an illegitimate child and shame had followed her since birth, but the prince was different. She begged Hyun to support her when she requested the divorce because it would ultimately protect Leon. Soon after, Leon and Hyu-ju arrive at the royal council meeting together. The session begins with the Lord announcing that Prime Minister Mr. Lee requested the prince step down from his royal duties. But before he can continue, Hyu-ju suddenly raises her hand and interrupts everyone. She shocks the entire council by announcing that she and the prince are divorcing. Everyone in the room is stunned. Hyu-ju continues speaking calmly, saying she planned everything only to obtain royal status, but now she no longer cares if her title is taken away. She reminds them that she was once the prime suspect in the palace fire incident, but because she became part of the royal family, nobody was able to investigate her properly. Then she turns toward Mr. Lee and asks if they would finally be able to investigate her once her royal status is removed. Mr. Lee confirms that they would. Leon stares at her in silence, his eyes practically asking, "What is she doing?" But Hyu-ju continues anyway. She says that whether or not she was responsible for the fire, at least it would prove Leon had nothing to do with any of it. Then she tells Mr. Lee there is no reason to demand that Leon give up his regency because he is innocent. Meanwhile, Hyu-ju's brother holds a press conference at the company headquarters, all part of Hyu-ju's plan. Reporters immediately bombard him with questions about the secret marriage contract, the wedding incident, and whether Hyu-ju faked her collapse. That is when Hyu-ju's brother shocks everyone by revealing for the first time that Hyuju was genuinely poisoned. The reporters are stunned because they never knew the truth. Then he points out that everyone has already seen the marriage contract themselves, so did it actually benefit either the prince or the princess in any way? The reporters slowly admit that neither side truly gained anything. Hyuju's brother insists the marriage was never fake because Leon and Hyuju genuinely love each other. A reporter immediately asks, then why does the contract mention divorce after 3 years? Hyuju's brother shocks them again by admitting that the condition was his idea. Everyone in the room is stunned. He explains that he was only worried about his sister and feared the feelings between them might fade one day. Since divorce inside the palace is forbidden, he suggested adding the condition into a private agreement. He also reveals that the contract was never legally registered. Then, he apologizes publicly for all the chaos caused by his mistake before ending the conference. Everything was perfectly planned by Hyuju. Back at the council meeting, Hyuju continues explaining that Leon never gained anything from marrying her and that since they are divorcing anyway, they should restore his position immediately. Mr. Lee then turns toward Leon and asks whether he agrees with all of this. Leon remains silent the entire time, almost as if he is allowing everyone to continue their game freely. Then he glances at the assistant with an unreadable expression, clearly planning something himself. Suddenly, several men enter, carrying a royal decree along with the red robes of the crown prince. To understand what Leon planned, the story flashes back again to the moment he was sitting in his brother's room, remembering his words about not ending up the same way he did. Leon then stood up and opened a hidden box containing the crown prince's ceremonial red robes. After that, he went to visit the young king. The lady-in-waiting tried stopping him because the child was asleep, but Leon ignored her and entered anyway. He softly told the sleeping child, "I'm returning your throne." Back in the present, the men present the royal decree, not from the young king, but from Leon's deceased older brother himself. It is the official will where the late king abdicates the throne in favor of his younger brother, Prince Leon. At the exact same time, the young king publicly announces his own abdication in favor of his uncle, Prince Leon, in front of everyone. The Rang completely loses his mind and demands to know how this happened. He tries rushing to the young king, but Leon stops him cold and asks whether he intends to oppose a royal decree. The Rang freezes, unable to speak. The entire council stands there in absolute shock. Just moments ago, they were trying to force Leon to abandon his regency and royal duties, but in a single instant, Leon completely overturned the table on all of them and became the new king. After leaving the council chamber, Hyuju follows Leon outside. Before she can speak, he cuts her off angrily and tells her she never trusted him enough to believe he could protect her. Then he walks away, leaving her behind. Meanwhile, when Queen learns what happened, she completely breaks down. She rushes toward her son in fury, but because the child is terrified of her, he locks himself inside his room. The Queen starts trying to break down the door while the lady-in-waiting desperately begs her to stop. Then, Queen horrifyingly declares that she will set the room on fire to force him out. At that moment, Mr. Lee arrives and orders her to return to her room. Through their conversation, it is revealed that when the council offered Leon the royal decree, he actually refused it at first. But according to royal procedure, the offer must be repeated 3 times before acceptance becomes mandatory. Mr. Lee warns Queen that before the next 2 offers happen, she must either stop Leon or stop her own son. He also reveals that Hyuju's poisoning case will be reopened. Queen goes pale. Then, Mr. Lee finally reveals his true face. It becomes obvious that he does not care about anyone except himself. He coldly tells Queen he will discard her once he obtains the thing he truly wants, Hyuju. Meanwhile, inside her room, Hyuju keeps replaying Leon's words in her head. She learns that he left the palace, making her panic because she fears someone might target him after everything that happened. She keeps calling him, but Leon ignores every call. Hyuju remembers the moment he confessed his love to her and starts crying uncontrollably. She continues sending him messages just to know he is safe. The maid notices how worried Hyuju is for him and realizes they truly love each other despite everything. Then the maid quietly hints that the palace gates will close soon. Hyuju instantly understands what she means. Overjoyed, she hugs the maid before running outside, jumping into her car and racing away. Eventually, she finds Leon at the residence. The second she sees him, she confesses that she loves him and that he already knows she does. She admits she only asked for a divorce to protect him. Leon already knew the truth. He forgives her, and the two finally reconcile. The next morning, Leon explains everything to Hyuju, including his late brother's will. Hyuju fully supports him and promises she will stay by his side no matter what. Outside the palace, however, the people are still protesting because the truth about the royal decree has not yet been revealed publicly. Mr. Lee has deliberately prevented the news from spreading outside the palace walls. The protesters continue demanding an end to Leon's regency and the removal of Hyuju's royal title. When Leon returns to the palace, Queen summons him. She begs him to reject the throne, but when she realizes he has no intention of doing that, she explodes in anger and asks why he suddenly changed now. Then she confesses her past. She remembers how her father once ordered her to marry the crown prince, even though she originally unconditionally loved Leon. Queen tearfully tells Leon she sacrificed her dreams and her love for the royal family, so why can he not sacrifice something too? But Leon remains completely unmoved. He calmly calls for the assistant and orders them to keep Queen isolated in her room for 3 days because her mental state is unstable. Meanwhile, the Rang secretly begins planning something to stop Leon from taking the throne, and Mr. Li is helping him. The next day, the young king visits his mother. Queen coldly tells him to leave unless he plans to reverse his decision. She claims he has no idea what his father sacrificed to pass the throne to him, but the child suddenly bursts into tears and reveals that he already knows everything. He heard everything the day his father died. Queen completely collapses emotionally for the first time and finally hugs her son. Afterward, Queen remembers her father threatening to kill Leon. Terrified, she immediately calls Leon, but he does not answer. She urgently orders the assistant to do something. At the same time, Leon receives a message asking him to come meet someone inside the council chamber. Meanwhile, Hyuju leaves the palace to visit her father, but while walking outside, she runs into the Rang, who stares at her with pure hatred in his eyes. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupts from inside the council chamber. Hyuju freezes in horror before running toward the scene, but she is shocked when she sees the secretary standing outside because she believed the secretary was with Leon. Then the secretary tells her the prince is still inside. Flames are already consuming the entire chamber. She freezes in shock, then rushes toward the hall in panic. Inside, the Prince Leon struggles to breathe as the flames close around him. Then he hears Hyuju calling his name. He's stunned that she risked her own life to save him. He remembers her words, how she promised she would always stay by his side. Even while losing consciousness, he silently wishes for her to leave before she gets hurt too. Moments later, he collapses. Hyuju finally reaches him, but the fire grows stronger around them. She desperately tries to drag him out, but she can't move him. Tears stream down her face as she screams for someone to save the Prince Leon. At the same time, Queen's son runs to her crying hysterically. Confused, she asks the maid what happened, only to learn that a fire broke out in the council hall while the Prince Leon was inside. The next day, Hyuju sits beside the prince's bed while he remains unconscious. The doctors reassure everyone that his condition is stable. The maid angrily scolds Hyuju for her recklessness, telling her that if the Choi hadn't gone inside and rescued them, she would have died. Hyuju stares blankly ahead and murmurs that if their positions were reversed, the Prince Leon would have saved her too. Just then, Mr. Li storms into the room in anger. Hyuju quickly tells him not to worry because the Prince Leon's condition is stable, but Mr. Li explodes before she can finish. He yells at her for risking her life and asks why she still hasn't gone to the hospital when her hands are injured. She shocks him with her response, asking how he expects her to trust any hospital after what happened, especially when the incident was clearly not an accident. Mr. Li tells her that even if it wasn't an accident, she still had no right to do what she did. Hurt and furious, she asks if he wanted her to leave the Prince Leon there to die. Mr. Li raises his voice and coldly replies, "Yes, you should have left him to die." Hyuju falls silent, completely stunned by his words. Realizing what he just said, Mr. Li immediately tries to fix the situation, explaining that he simply doesn't want anything bad to happen to her. Meanwhile, the secretary breaks down in tears, overwhelmed with guilt. Choi enters and reassures her that both the Prince Leon and princess are safe. Crying, she says she never should have left the prince alone. Choi gently comforts her, telling her that even if she had stayed beside him, she couldn't have prevented what happened. She notices the injury on his hand and thanks him sincerely. The scene flashes back to the fire. When Hyuju rushed into the hall, Choi had jumped over the burning wooden beam and followed her inside, despite the secretary's terrified attempts to stop him. A little later, he emerged carrying Ian on his back while Hyuju stumbled beside him. Back in the present, the secretary thanks Choi again, saying that without him, both the Prince Leon and princess would have died. When she admits she was worried about him too, Choi completely freezes, visibly happy just hearing her concern for him. Later, Hyuju asks the secretary an important question. She wants to know why the prince went to the council hall when he was supposed to head to the throne hall to officially announce his succession as the next king. The secretary explains that Prime Minister Mr. Li requested to speak with him privately first. Hyuju's expression darkens as suspicion begins growing inside her. Afterward, she visits the Prince Leon again and remembers all the times he encouraged and protected her. Tears fill her eyes as she whispers that he once told her the palace was the safest place for her, but wonders if there is any safe place for him. Elsewhere, Mr. Li stands in front of the burned council hall while his assistant informs him that they're preparing an official statement about the incident and also plan to announce the Prince Leon's ascension according to the late king's will. However, Mr. Li refuses and orders them to postpone everything until the Prince Leon regains consciousness. The following day, news about the fire spreads everywhere. Hyuju heads to the surveillance room and demands every recording from the council hall over the past month. She also orders investigations into everyone who was present during the fire. Choi hesitates and tells her that such authority belongs to Queen, meaning they must ask her permission first. Hyuju calmly replies that she'll ask Queen herself. When she meets Queen, the Queen asks about the Prince Leon's condition and and says she wanted to visit him, but the prince had forbidden her from leaving her quarters. Ju coldly responds, asking if Queen wanted to confirm whether the Prince Leon was dead or alive, especially since the fire happened right before he was supposed to inherit the throne, and Queen was the only person openly against him becoming king. Ju then warns her that if she doesn't want to become a suspect, she should cooperate fully and grant her complete authority to investigate. Queen silently spills her drink and stares at Ju with eyes full of malice, saying she no longer trusts any drink placed before her. After Ju leaves, Choi informs her that the investigation will proceed secretly rather than publicly. Confused, she asks why, and Choi explains that it was Mr. Lee's order, especially since her poisoning case is still unresolved. Annoyed, Ju goes to see Mr. Lee. When she finds him standing beside the Prince Leon, she grows uneasy and stares at him strangely the moment she sees him. Meanwhile, Ju's brother desperately tries to contact her after hearing the recent news, but she refuses to answer. He and his wife are sitting in a restaurant when they overhear people nearby saying the Prince Leon must have died because the palace hasn't released any statement yet. Both of them are horrified. His wife urges him to call Ju again, but despite his panic, she still doesn't respond. At Mr. Lee's office, his assistant informs him that the royal secretariat wants to announce the prince's succession immediately. Mr. Lee seems surprised. The assistant mentions rumors spreading about the prince's death, but Mr. Lee still refuses to move forward. Afterward, Mr. Lee visits Queen and offers her the position of regent because the people are becoming unstable and anxious. Shock appears across her face as she tells him they should wait until the Prince Leon wakes up instead of rushing into such a dangerous decision. But Mr. Lee insists. He tells her that even if she refuses, he can officially announce it and place the responsibility on her as part of her royal duty. Before she can answer, the royal guards suddenly announce the arrival of Crown Prince Leon. The moment Mr. Lee sees Leon standing before him, alive and well, shock overtakes his face because Ian's return destroys all of his plans. Later, Ju and Choi review the list of everyone who entered the hall that day when the secretary suddenly rushes in and announces that the Prince Leon has awakened. Ju immediately runs toward his room, but once she reaches him, he grabs her before she can leave. Tears pour from her eyes the moment she sees him alive and safe. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee sits alone, disturbed as he remembers his conversation with Leon earlier. He advised Leon to rest for the time being, but Ian refused and declared that he would begin carrying out his royal duties immediately after hearing rumors about his death. Ian insisted that this was the perfect moment to announce the new king. Back in the present, Mr. Lee meets with the Rang, and the two clearly seem to be planning something together. Later, Ju asks Leon why he went to Queen in secret. Leon explains that Mr. Lee had been searching for someone to replace him, and he needed to expose everyone's hypocrisy. Ju carefully asks if he truly trusts Mr. Lee. Leon looks surprised by the question, but calmly replies that he does trust him. The next day, the news announces that the person responsible for the fire has surrendered himself. It turns out to be one of the royal guards. However, protests demanding the Prince Leon step down continue throughout the country. Elsewhere, the Queen sits with the Rang, who insists that she must stop the Prince Leon from returning to his duties, especially after the fire caused by the gas explosion. The moment he says gas explosion, Queen narrows her eyes and asks how he knows that was the cause. He refuses to answer. That silence tells her everything. Queen realizes her own father was behind the incident. Devastated, she returns to her room only to discover the spy waiting for her there. Queen sadly tells her that she won't be able to protect her anymore. Later, Queen visits Ian and hands him the file Mr. Lee previously gave her, evidence proving that her own father was behind Ju's poisoning incident. She slowly kneels on the floor before Leon, but Leon assumes she's about to beg him to spare her father, but instead, she demands the harshest punishment possible for both herself and her father. She explains that since Leon will become king, it is her duty to protect the crown from everyone, whether from her father or even from her own greed for power. The scene shifts back to Mr. Lee, who informs his assistant that this year he personally intends to announce the start of hunting season. The assistant looks confused because traditionally, the royal family handles that announcement. Suddenly, Ju interrupts and boldly says that she will make the announcement instead. Then she sarcastically asks what kind of hunting season still exists in the 21st century and what about animal rights. Mr. Lee calmly explains that when harmful creatures multiply, they must be eliminated. At that exact moment, Ju raises a hunting rifle directly toward him. Mr. Lee freezes in shock. But Ju suddenly lowers the gun with a smile and tells him she already knows he arrested the man responsible for the fire. The look in her eyes makes it clear that she finally understands everything. Later, the Prince Leon tells Ju that Queen visited him and confessed that her father was behind the poisoning incident. He admits he was deeply moved when Queen begged him because he understands she only did it to protect her son from suffering for their crimes. He confesses to Ju that he honestly doesn't know what the right decision is anymore. The following day, the young king seals a royal decree while his mother stands beside him. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee visits Ian after being summoned. Leon thanks him for quickly arresting the person responsible for the fire. Then he suddenly asks if they discovered who was responsible for the poisoning incident. Mr. Lee remains silent for a moment before finally admitting that the Lord was responsible. Leon immediately remembers Queen, warning him about Mr. Lee, telling him that Mr. Lee knew the truth from the very beginning but deliberately chose to stay silent. Back in the present, Leon declares that the Lord must be punished accordingly. Mr. Lee refuses because the Lord belongs to the royal family, but Leon firmly insists. Then he shocks Mr. Lee completely by declaring that once he officially ascends the throne, he intends to abolish the monarchy entirely. Mr. Lee leaves in visible frustration and encounters Queen on his way out, but he completely ignores her. Soon afterward, the royal guards arrest the Rang. The spy is arrested as well, and the news spreads quickly across television broadcasts. The next day, Mr. Lee gathers everyone for an emergency meeting and informs them about Leon's decision to abolish the monarchy. Naturally, everyone opposes the idea because each of them benefits from the royal system continuing to exist. After the meeting ends, Mr. Lee finds Ju waiting for him. She confronts him directly, accusing him of knowing the Lord was responsible for everything while still protecting him. Then she tells him that their friendship probably won't survive any longer and that they may soon become enemies instead. Finally, the story moves to Leon's coronation ceremony. Everyone stands inside the grand hall, including Mr. Lee. Leon enters majestically and takes his seat upon the royal throne. The room falls silent as everyone waits for his first royal announcement. Then, Leon calmly declares that his first decree as king will be the abolition of the monarchy itself. At the same time, Choi nervously paces around in circles until he finally annoys Ju enough for her to yell at him to sit quietly. As she watches him, she remembers her conversation with Leon the night before. That night, she had told him that he was no longer just a Prince Leon, he was now the king, and she had become the queen. Smiling softly, she asked him what his first declaration as king would be. Leon told her he planned to abolish the monarchy. He admitted he already knew the reaction would be explosive, but Ju reassured him without hesitation. She promised she would stay by his side and support him no matter what happened. Her words made him genuinely happy. Then, he teasingly asked her if she was really ready to give up the title of queen so soon after receiving it. Ju smiled and admitted she never truly wanted to become queen in the first place. Back in the present, one of the officials questions Leon in disbelief, asking how a king could possibly want to abolish the monarchy. Leon asks Mr. Lee about public opinion, and Mr. Lee informs him that the people strongly oppose the decision. He ends by saying that kings may come and go, but the crown itself must survive. Meanwhile, Choi warns Ju that the cabinet ministers and royal relatives will definitely reject Leon's proposal. Ju becomes worried for Leon because he now has nobody he can truly rely on, especially when even the public stands against him. After the meeting ends, reporters immediately surround Mr. Lee outside the hall and question him about the rumors concerning the abolition of the monarchy. Mr. Lee calmly tells them not to worry because there is no reason for panic. Soon, every news channel begins discussing King Leon's shocking first proposal. Ju's brother watches the news in disbelief and says that Leon has barely taken the throne, yet already wants to destroy the system entirely. Meanwhile, Queen visits her father in prison. He refuses to even look at her after Leon informed him that she was the one who handed over the evidence against him. Furious, he asks how she dared to come see him after what she had done. The Queen tearfully tells him she simply wanted to witness the consequences of everything he caused. Her father bitterly replies that she still doesn't understand what she's done to her own son, saying that after becoming king, he has now been reduced to nothing more than a powerless child. With tears and regret filling her eyes, Queen reveals that her son knew the truth all along and silently carried the burden alone. Then she tells her father that from now on, she is no longer his daughter. For the first time, regret finally appears on his face. As Queen prepares to leave, he suddenly stops her and reveals something horrifying. Mr. Lee knew the explosion would happen, which is why he deliberately sent Leon there. The Queen freezes in absolute shock because even she never imagined Mr. Lee was capable of such evil. When she exits the prison, she finds Mr. Lee waiting outside. The moment she sees him, she instinctively steps backward in fear. Calmly, Mr. Lee tells her he'll escort her back to the palace. Elsewhere, the moment Ju's father enters the house, the family immediately questions him about the rumors since he attended the royal meeting. Someone asks whether Leon even had enough time to truly become king before deciding to erase the title itself. Ju's father angrily tells them to speak about Ian respectfully. His expression shows obvious concern, and he warns everyone that the most important thing now is protecting themselves. His words only make the family even more anxious. Inside the car, Mr. Lee tells Queen that another meeting will soon be held to discuss Leon's proposal. He explains that the ministers strongly oppose the decision and that Leon plans to leave the matter to the people's vote. Then Mr. Lee asks Queen to publicly oppose Leon's decision. The Queen quietly replies that she no longer has any power. Mr. Lee tells her he doesn't need her power. He only wants her to imply reply that Leon is abolishing the monarchy for selfish personal reasons. Queen asks him what he'll do if she refuses. Mr. Li coldly threatens her son. She stares at him in disbelief, unable to understand how he became such a monster. Back at the palace, the secretary informs Leon that Mr. Li has frozen the palace budget. Everyone starts panicking because they have no idea how they'll even pay the palace employees anymore. Hyuju suddenly laughs and casually says she has more money than she knows what to do with anyway. Leon jokingly asks if she plans to personally fund the palace herself. Hyuju proudly replies yes and tells him he should take advantage of the fact that he married into a rich family. She grabs the financial documents from Choi, but Leon points out that her solution won't work forever and that they need time to think properly about what to do next. Hyuju firmly reminds him that everyone is already against them, meaning they no longer have time to hesitate. The next day, Mr. Li confidently believes that cutting off palace funding will force Ian to back down. However, his assistant shocks him by reporting that the palace officially declined the second half of the year's funding altogether. Then Mr. Li learns something even worse. Castle Group, Hyuju's family company, donated an amount larger than the palace budget itself. The following day, Hyuju becomes furious after her family informs her that their company is under investigation for financial corruption. It's obvious Mr. Li arranged the investigation to stop the palace funding, but Hyuju refuses to surrender. She tells them to identify the official leading the investigation so she can transform the case from financial corruption into abuse of power instead. Everyone is impressed by her intelligence, including her father. Then Hyuju's brother announces that he'll personally attend the investigation in their father's place, so their father won't overwork himself. As Hyuju prepares to leave, her father stops her because he doesn't want her traveling alone. Instead, he orders her brother to escort her personally. During the drive, Hyuju tells her brother to contact her if he ever needs help. He jokingly asks whether she's worried about him. She immediately denies it before awkwardly admitting that he's her brother, so of course she worries about him. He freezes in shock because it's the first time she has ever called him brother. Embarrassed, Hyuju quickly runs away before he can respond. Meanwhile, he sits there smiling happily over how much their relationship has changed. Later, Hyuju visits Eon and tells him everything that happened with her family company. She's surprised because instead of blaming her like they always used to, her family actually supported her this time. Though embarrassed by the situation, she secretly feels happy deep inside. Elsewhere, Queen quietly watches her son while remembering Mr. Li's threats. It's revealed that Mr. Li knows she destroyed the late king's document that would have removed the prince from succession. Mr. Li threatened that if the truth came out, people wouldn't blame her. They would blame her son and brand him a criminal, just like his grandfather. The queen had confronted Mr. Li and told him she knew he tried to kill Leon. Mr. Li calmly admitted he was fully prepared to do it again if necessary. The next day, Hyuju's brother arrives for the investigation while reporters completely swarm the area. Meanwhile, Hyuju asks Queen to help Ian because her voice still carries influence within the royal family. At the second royal meeting, Leon arrives and discovers that Mr. Li never actually consulted the public at all and instead relied solely on the minister's opinions. The officials accuse Leon of pretending to care about the crown and the monarchy when in reality he only cares about protecting his own noble image. Suddenly, Hyuju interrupts the meeting by entering the hall and asking one terrifying question: who tried to kill Leon? Everyone is stunned by her words. Even Leon himself had no idea. Then Hyuju plays Mr. Li's recorded confession, secretly recorded by Queen inside the car. The room falls into complete silence as Mr. Li's voice admits he attempted to kill Leon. Prince Leon looks utterly shocked by what he's hearing and asks Mr. Li directly if it's true, but Mr. Li stays silent. Several officials attempt to defend him, but Ian furiously silences them and warns that anyone who speaks for Mr. Li will be considered his accomplice. After the meeting, Leon and Mr. Li remain alone together. Mr. Li finally admits that he truly did try to kill him. His justification is heartbreaking and twisted at the same time. He says he repeatedly warned Leon to stay away from Hyuju and this entire situation, but Leon refused to listen. Because of Leon's choices, Mr. Li himself became the horrible person he is now. Leon quietly responds that even if Hyuju had never existed, she still never would have chosen Mr. Li. Leon then walks away. Outside the room, the royal guards are already waiting to arrest Mr. Li. The following day, the news discusses the public vote regarding the abolition of the monarchy. After negotiations, the government officially agrees to debate the issue seriously, and Leon insists the people themselves should decide whether the monarchy survives or disappears. Meanwhile, Choi tells the secretary that abolishing the monarchy must be painful for her because she spent her entire life inside the palace. The secretary admits it will indeed be difficult to adjust afterward, but Choi gently tells her that people matter more than places and promises he'll stay beside the Prince Leon no matter where he goes. Finally, the public vote concludes. Leon officially announces the results. The monarchy will be abolished. At last, Leon feels relieved because he knows power destroys relationships between siblings and corrupts people's hearts. After the monarchy is abolished, accomplished, the very first thing Leon asks Hyuju is to call him by his real name instead of royal titles. And for the first time, when she sees him, she softly calls him Hang. Leon is now dressed in ordinary clothes instead of royal garments. 3 years later, Hyuju finally returns to her company while reporters crowd around her. Her office is overflowing with work and paperwork everywhere. Then her brother enters excitedly and announces that he's taking a vacation. Confused, Hyuju asks why. He happily reveals that his wife is pregnant and he needs to stay beside her. Hyuju immediately chases after him in panic because she literally just returned to work and can't handle everything alone. Elsewhere, Leon and Choi are cooking together. Choi asks Leon when he plans to start working again. Leon replies that has been working non-stop for years and deserves some rest. The Choi jokingly warns him that women don't like unemployed men. It's revealed that Leon actually started his own company but manages it from home. Later, he calls Hyuju only to learn that both she and the secretary are busy working late and won't even be able to eat with them. Leon and Choi sadly complain about being left alone. At her office, Hyuju is surprised when her father visits her. He finally confesses that he never truly hated her. What he hated was her selfishness and her constant battles with everyone for her own benefit. But now, he says, she has changed. After he leaves, Hyuju breaks down, crying from happiness. The next day, Queen and Leon's relationship has finally healed, and the two of them are seen happily choosing a gift for her son together. Meanwhile, the secretary has opened a flower shop because flowers had always been his true passion. Later, Leon visits him and reveals that he wants to give Hyuju a real marriage proposal this time because their first one was fake. Secretary suddenly points out that Hyuju is literally standing right behind him. Leon turns around in embarrassment and finds Hyuju laughing at him. On their way home, Hyuju asks him when he first fell in love with her. Leon smiles and admits that he was attracted to her the very first time he saw her years ago at school during archery club practice. He reveals that he waited a long time, hoping to meet her again after graduation, and he was genuinely happy when he saw her again for the first time inside the palace. The series ends with our main characters, Leon and Hyuju, together at a football field. Leon is finally free to wear whatever he wants and live the life he was always denied. At last, he's able to experience true freedom, and with that, the story ends.